live here, and it is 8:30. I would like to call the meeting to order of the Cook County Board of Commissioners.
Live and well.
Tuesday, February 23rd at 21. Please rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. To the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, it looked like Commissioner Sullivan had her hand up before the pledge.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Sullivan.
I was just having a little difficulty hearing you, but you seem to be coming in just fine right now.
Thank you very much. I'm going to change it anyway. Thank you for the feedback. How is this, everybody?
Great.
Oh, okay, good. All right, do we have any adjustments to the agenda? Don't see anyone. In that case, could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Starley. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Paulson seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Svalson. Do a roll call vote. Commissioner Starley?
Aye.
Commissioner Svalson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins? Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is aye as well. Unanimous approval of the agenda. Moving on to public comment period. Opportunity for citizens to appear before the county board and speak their piece. If there's any public comment that's been submitted, or if there's anyone that's joined us in the Zoom meeting here.
Mr. Chairman,
Administrator Yorkie?
Yes, I have received no public comment this week.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that Commissioner would like to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing or hearing none, could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Commissioner Sullivan?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the consent agenda.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Starley support.
Thank you, Commissioner Starley. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Starley?
Aye.
Commissioner Svalson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins? Commissioner Mills is aye as well. And I'm sorry, Commissioner Hawkins, I had a hard time hearing you the first, just approving the agenda, and then this time I didn't hear anything. Could we test your mic?
Hear me now.
Yes, but there was a delay. I'll if it becomes an issue, I'll let you know. But yeah, got your vote, and yes, I vote aye as well. We have a unanimous approval of the consent agenda. Thank you all. Moving on to number 4, Emergency Operations Command update. Grace, nice to see you. Would you like to give your update?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Mills. So I'll start with numbers. So unfortunately, yesterday we hit a grim milestone nationwide with 500,000 deaths since the pandemic began last March. While we haven't had a death in Cook County, I know that many people in our community have lost loved ones living in other parts of the state and the country, and that it's been a really difficult year for a lot of people in a lot of different ways, whether or not they've been touched directly by severe disease or death from COVID-19. So I guess it's a negative way to start the report, but I think it's an important milestone to remember, and to remember why it's important that we're doing the work that we're doing in prevention and in vaccination here in the community. So in Minnesota, the trends are looking good at the moment. The rate of new cases, the rate of hospitalizations, the rate of deaths has slowed in recent weeks, and that seems to be a trend that's continuing. On the vaccination front, I guess in Cook County in the case count, we're at 118. We've had one new case this past week and one new case the previous week. And we've been able to complete the case investigation, contact tracing very quickly for those two cases. So I know the states has it listed at 119, it is 118. What seems to happen maybe once or twice a week is we get a case assigned that actually is for a person who doesn't live in Cook County. It'll usually be someone else in the Arrowhead region, but it'll be misassigned. So we have to report that back to the state so that they can reassign it to the county of residence. So that is what is the cause of the discrepancy between the 118 and the 119. In vaccination, in Cook County, 2,174 county residents have received at least one dose, with 732 having completed the 2-dose series. That equals to 40% of the population having received at least one dose. And of that, the real focus recently has been on people ages 65 and over. And at this point, we've vaccinated 88% of Cook County residents ages 65 and older. So, I started on a really negative note and a really sad note, but I think that there are bright spots in the response, and I would urge the community to just continue to keep it up. I know it's really hard to keep masking and distancing and doing the hand hygiene and staying home when you're sick, and it's making a difference. And we're getting to a point with vaccination where I think we just have to really keep this up. The lower the rate, or the slower the rate of new cases is, the more we're going to notice the effect of vaccination right away in the community. So I just urge everyone to keep it up. Continuing on in vaccination, so last week we had 2 events. We had a mix of first doses and second doses. Second doses primarily for first responder, childcare, K-12 employees. First doses really focused on that 65 and older population. And really last week, there was a significant amount of outreach to people 65 and older through the clinic. The clinic pulled records from their medical software and had their care coordinator nurses and their vaccine coordinator calling people 65 and older who had not received the vaccine yet, one by one. And so at this point, I feel like after all of the outreach, we've really, either people have signed up independently and received the vaccine, or they've been contacted by the clinic so that they know that they're eligible. And of course, some people decline and some people are seasonal residents and they're not here. But by and large, I feel pretty confident in the outreach that we've done to the 65 and older community in Cook County. We did have a bit of a bump in the road last week on Wednesday, where we had a mechanical failure in the utility room of the curling rink, and about a third of the rink wound up flooded. So Diane Booth and the maintenance crew at the county really did a fantastic job at coming and fixing the source of the problem and making sure that the arena was all dried out and ready to go for our event on Thursday. I was getting a little nervous because it was the night before the event, but we managed to get everything back and running and we didn't have to cancel or go to paper only or anything like that for the clinic last Thursday. So that was fantastic, and I'm very grateful for that support from the county staff that was part of cleaning that up. We did put out a media release last Friday. We, along with most of the rest of the country, have been affected by the shipping delays because of the extreme weather in parts of the US. So the doses we actually were expecting to come last week that we would have used for first doses this week. Those were delayed and they actually have not arrived yet. So we went to second doses only for this week. The way that we schedule is when a person comes for their first dose, they're automatically scheduled for their second dose appointment. So our priority was really to keep those appointments for the people who had them, so we wouldn't have to cancel, reschedule, and then set up a whole other second dose event. And I think that we are largely going to be able to do that. Thanks to collaboration with our partners through the Northeast Healthcare Coalition and Grand Portage Health Services as well. So I think we're going to be able to get everyone who was due for a second dose this week their second dose, which is a significant number of people. There's 400 people due for their second dose of vaccine this week, between 2 smaller events at North Shore Health that are focused primarily on the 75 and older group, and here at the community center, both Wednesday and Thursday, we have events for the 65 and older population to get their second dose, as well as some school employees. So we're going to be able to keep on track. We just had to take a pause on the new first doses this week because of that shipping delay. What I'm hearing from the state is that those should arrive by the end of the week, so that next week we would be able to continue offering first doses. NPR and the Star Tribune both wanted to talk about our local vaccination efforts, and NPR specifically wanted to talk about our Minnesota Response volunteers supporting vaccination efforts. So I'm imagining there'll be stories coming out from both of those news outlets in the coming days. With the priority group for vaccination, I think we've essentially saturated the group that MDH has us focusing on for right now, which is 1A, that's healthcare, long-term care, first responders, educators, and 65 plus. We have not wasted a single dose of vaccine in Cook County, which I'm very proud of. Where do we go from here? I'm working with the clinic. They're the group that receives the allocation. They're the agency that receives the allocation for the community through the Minnesota Association of Community Health Centers and Minnesota Department of Health. So that's the directive of where we can focus our efforts next is going to come through them. And it looks like we'll be able to focus on people with certain underlying health conditions starting next week, and still working to get clarity on exactly what that will look like. And next Monday, we'll put out a release and have registration open on the hub site at 8 o'clock, just like we had kind of set the precedent to do beforehand. So that's the vaccination events and news. Other updates, primarily with schools. So Jody is back starting part-time, and she was our school liaison and moved into the public health educator position right around Thanksgiving. And so she's still working with schools in her role, as well as taking a lead on the contact tracing case investigation. And schools actually have had quite a bit of new guidance coming from both the CDC and MDH in terms of safety planning and how to bring students back into the building safely. And so Jody's playing kind of a technical assistance role in helping the school, primarily ISD, because they're looking at bringing middle school and high school back in hybrid in early March. And Jody's role is just to help them kind of make sense of the technical assistance or the safety planning requirements and recommendations from the state when it comes to things like distancing in the classroom and best practices for students to safely be in the building. We've also had a request from our school partners about messaging around spring break and travel, as there are families that are planning to travel. So that is really looking at what the CDC's current guidelines around travel and safety during travel say, to be able to bring that back to the community and provide families with some tools for they're planning to go out of town for spring break, just what to be mindful of in terms of safety while they're traveling. So that is what we've been focused on in public health in the last couple of weeks here. It's been very busy, but the vaccination events have largely been going well, and it's been fantastic to see community members coming through the curling rink and receiving their vaccines. So happy to take questions from the commissioners.
Thank you, Grace. Do any commissioners have questions or comments? Commissioner Sullivan, you're on mute.
Grace, I wanted to thank you on behalf of our community for communicating so effectively, particularly with the delay in first doses. But it seems people are very clear about the delay, and although very anxious to get their first dose if they haven't, you've done a great job of explaining and reassuring them. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's sometimes challenging to manage that there are many people who want their vaccine and we don't have enough to just vaccinate everyone right away. But I appreciate people's enthusiasm and their patience, and we'll get through it. It'll just take some time.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Grace. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? All right. Well, thank you, Grace, for all your hard work, and really appreciate where we're at and what we've been through, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next item on the agenda, I failed to read the statement regarding our virtual meeting here, so I'm going to do that now. Item 1. It has been determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the related peacetime emergency declaration made by Governor Walz in accordance with Minnesota Statutes, Chapter 12. Number 2, we have ensured that all members of the body participating in the meeting, wherever their physical location, can hear one another and can hear all discussion and testimony offered at today's meeting. Number 3, we have also ensured that members of the public present at the regular meeting location of the body can hear all discussion, testimony, and all votes of the members of the body. We have urged the public not to attend this meeting in person because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and have ensured that members of the public can view and monitor the meeting remotely in real time by broadcasting the meetings on the Cook County website. Number 4, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have determined that it may be unfeasible for County Auditor Brady Powers, County Attorney Molly Hicken, County Administrator James Yorkie, and members of the Board of Commissioners to be physically present at the county boardroom at the Cook County Courthouse. Number 5, all votes will be conducted by roll call, so each member's vote on each issue will be identified and recorded. So sorry for that oversight here, and got that out of the way. We can move on to item number 5, the Highway Department. The first item we have is CASA 12 State Routes to School Resolution Addendum. Engineer Haas is with us. I can turn it over to you, sir.
Awesome, thank you. We'll go over, there's a couple resolutions to talk about. And so the first one is the Safe Routes to School Resolution Addendum. If you look at it, there's just a sentence we had to add in there. Because we're connecting onto MnDOT right-of-way, you have to have a limited use permit. And so when I had sent the state the original resolution, because it didn't explicitly say limited use permit, yeah, we had to put that in there. So now I'm back here. So that's all on the first one. So it's just adding that bit in, saying that we have to get a limited use permit from the state in order to connect to the sidewalk on 61.
All right, thank you, Engineer Haas. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments? I see nothing here and hear nothing. Could I get a motion to approve the resolution? Oh, sorry, Commissioner Sullivan, yes.
I move to approve the Safe Routes to School Resolution Addendum.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. We have a motion. Is there support?
Swallowson seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Swalson. Do a roll call vote. Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
Commissioner Swalson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Storley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is aye as well. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you all. 5 reconstruction resolution. Engineer Haas.
Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you. So this one, again, it didn't look like, I couldn't find a resolution for this project to begin with. And so this one is a similar circumstance. I'm applying for some local road improvement program funds, and that requires a resolution. Similarly, in case, since we are, this project goes down to the trunk highway, if we do encroach on MnDOT right of way, again, limited use permit. And an additional one is the drainage permit. Similar, it's kind of just, we need these permits and the resolutions have to explicitly say, drainage permit or limited use permit for these projects. And so that is basically what this one is, just kind of the fine details on some of these project resolutions to put forward. So.
All right. Thank you, Engineer Haas. Do we have any questions on this resolution or comments? Only comment I would make is just that we did have an initial public meeting on this is 5th Avenue West, just to be clear. We did have an initial public meeting regarding this project, and it was interesting to me just because there was a lot of concern at that initial public meeting as to why the public was not involved earlier. And it was explained, well, this is the beginning, and we hope to have more. And so I just want to emphasize that I would like to have more meetings as this moves along. But it was a very informative initial public meeting, and a really good way to start it off. So.
Oh, that's good. You beat me to it. I was going to talk about it a little bit in my next thing, but no, we're on the same page. This is great.
Very good. Very good. Well, I apologize for stepping on your toes there, but could I get a motion to approve the second resolution?
Swallowson motions to approve the second.
Thank you, Commissioner Swalson. We have a
You froze.
Did I miss the support?
No, I said you froze, so
Oh.
support.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Starley. We do have a motion and support. Any further discussion? I think we've already had that. Roll call vote. Commissioner Swalson.
Aye.
Commissioner Storley.
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins.
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is aye as well. Thank you. We have unanimous support of the second resolution here. And then moving on to item 5C, 2021-2022 project plan / project approval process. Engineer Haas.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, could I interject? Robbie, I don't know if you know it, but your camera is off.
I do, because in order for me to present and avoid that snafu that happened a little while ago, when I'm in the office, I plug my laptop in, and so it gets funny with the screen. So you'll see my face when I'm done presenting.
Okay. You got all dressed up, and I didn't want you to waste that up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Nope, I'll turn it on once we get through these slides here.
That's the finale, right?
That's the finale. Yeah, me and a tie. All right. So hopefully this looks okay, and let's present. How's that look?
Looks great.
Good.
Good, giant and blue, perfect. So the point of this was just to kind of go over some 2021 updates, some plans for 22, and then kind of review our processes here, in dealing with projects and board resolutions. And I just wanted to kind of go over that quick. So for 2021, you can see where we have projects, kind of, up and down the highway and then way up the Gunflint. We have 8 projects, which is kind of neat. I'll go over them each a little bit, but it's kind of nice to see these going forward. One of them is Friedenberg Creek. It's a partnership we have with Soil and Water. That is right now we are, the highway department had agreed to provide a bit of bid oversight and some financial contribution from the TST fund. We're adding a bridge to the inventory in this case. It's replacing a deficient culvert. Currently, we're in the process of reviewing plans and special provisions, and we're hoping, I think mid-March, we should be able to get this thing out for bid letting. Poplar River Bridge study, that was an interesting one. If you're not familiar, it's kind of up Ski Hill Road. It connects the Spirit Hiking Trail together. We had LHB come out and perform an analysis of that bridge. Preliminarily, it's showing, there's a need for rehab on it. It's kind of a goofy structure. I think it was built in like 1915 for vehicles originally, and then it's been relocated, and now it's just a pedestrian bridge. So it's been an interesting project. So, but what's kind of nice is preliminarily, a relatively quick rehab will get the bridge in very good working order. And then there's some future discussions on what we want to do with it. Should it remain on the county inventory, or, should another entity take it over once we rehab? So that's, I think, early March. The main report should be done, and then we can get together and talk about that with the stakeholders. So kind of like we were just talking about with the safe routes to school, we should be ready in early April with that one. We're doing that design in-house. There's a grant opportunity as well as some of our municipal state aid funds. If you're not familiar with it, it's a trail between Trunk Highway 61 and Highway 7 on the GES side there. And so like I had said, early April is what we're shooting for. We're finishing the plans and special provisions right now. The SAG slump. So I don't know, that one's got a really cool name, I guess, but it's a road correction almost at the end of the trail, way up there. It's a huge sag in the road. I think one of my first days here, I got driven up there, and I saw a car go over it, and they were doing, I don't know, 20, and it almost looked like they were hitting a jump. And I was like, we should fix that, like now. So that got added to our project list pretty quick once I settled in. And so what's nice is we turned it around, and we actually got some compliments from state aid on it, which was awesome. They don't have to tell us that we made nice plans, but they did. And so that was nice. That we're using some of our state aid dollars. What we're doing is utilizing GeoGrid to reinforce the sub-base material. So if you're not familiar with that, kind of think of like a plastic lattice, fancy plastic lattice work that you roll out in between your base materials. And so what that does is it helps grab everything and provide some strength to the road. We can get into more details if you're very curious afterwards, but that's the gist of it. Those plans are ready to go. We were doing a little bit of, trying to save on some mobilization costs, since, we're at the end of everything, and that's what we pay more in mobilization up here. And so we wanted to wait to let that out with a couple other projects that are similar. And so hopefully companies, contractors can see that and say, well, if we do all 3 of these projects, maybe, we can cut some mobilization costs there. And so those 2 other projects I had mentioned are Seagull Creek and Larch Creek. So Seagull Creek is one of our deficient bridges. We're replacing that, again, with our state aid dollars, shooting for mid-March bid letting, and we're finishing the special provisions on those right now. Larch Creek is adding a bridge to the inventory. This replaces a deficient culvert. Again, state aid monies, finishing the special provisions, shooting for mid-March. So like I had mentioned, we're letting out that SAG slump, Seagull Creek, and Larch Creek, and letting them out at the same time to hopefully save some mobilization costs. Cross River is a timber bridge replacement. I've talked about that before. We're using our TST cash fund for that. We're in the process of finishing the special provisions now. Again, shooting for mid-March to let this out for construction. And then the last one, Carlson Creek, over on Moose Valley Road, I think it's County Road 71, is going to utilize our TST cash fund. And we're currently working on the plans, shooting for early April bid letting on that one. So jumping ahead to 2022, the map looks a little more full, which is what I like to see. A lot going on, which is kind of exciting. For reference, the yellow stars there is construction, blue is consultant RFPs, and green is in-house design. So consultant RFPs are calling around to our other engineering companies and asking them to do the design, a request for proposal for these projects. And so in-house design, I was planning on us doing kind of the mill to hill in the Four Corners project. It's a mill and overlay from, let's see here, it's along the Gunflint Trail from 5th Avenue West up to Devil Track. And then the Little Devil Track River Bridge way underneath there, that needs replacement as well. So if we're going to rip up the Gunflint, why not do it once and do all the work then? The RFPs I'm proposing are for the Pine River Timber Bridge at the end of the Arrowhead there, the Cascade Beach Road concrete slab span bridge. And then this one was already awarded to LHB and Dave beat me to it, but the 5th Avenue West reconstruction, that design and, you know, process will kick more into gear, I think this coming year. So we can obviously more meetings, and that'll probably be its own topic for discussion at some other time, but that'll kick up a little bit. So some of the construction projects, you know, Sawbill Creek, including the RFP cost, you know, is right around $396,000. That's bridge replacement. I have the RFPs back for that one right now, actually. And so in early March, we'll be awarding those. So you'll hear from me again with that project. I applied for bridge bonds on this one. So hopefully we get them. And if we don't, it's a levy dependent structure. And so, you know, depending how things shake out with all of our discussions, you know, this project might get bumped down the road a little bit. Alfred Creek, again, I got RFPs back for that one as well. We're going to award those at the same time as Sawbill Creek, so early March that should go out. Again, I applied for bridge bonds for that one. It's another levy dependent structure. Junco Creek, you can see is a bridge replacement. We did that design in-house, and so what's kind of nice is that the design was done a few years ago, so we have the plans. So hopefully it should just be a matter of us going back into the plans, making sure that what got done was correct and we agree with. But it should just be, you know, some quick edits. And what's nice with that one is there's two grants that I had applied for this one. One is the National Fish Passage Program opportunities, and that was actually brought up with our soil and water friends. And then another option was the SPRA grant, the State Park Recreation Account, I believe, through the DNR. So I applied for two grants. I haven't heard back on either of them yet, but hopefully we can get one of them. That'd be nice. This is another levy dependent structure though. Some other things for construction, not as exciting, but just crack sealing. It's part of, you know, when we've talked about our pavement preservation plans before, I think that's come up in the 10-year transportation plan. And it's just something to have a handle on. We don't have a lot of pavement, but we have to take care of it. And so something I want to do is with new pavement, you know, about a year or two after you construct is the good time to go out there and do crack sealing, and you just do it then. And so it keeps the water out. And so I'm proposing doing that on 2, 12, 17, and 18. The cost with that is kind of a fussy one to nail down. You know, it'll probably turn into, you know, I don't know, I have the $100,000 or $50,000 of state aid funds left. And so, you know, pretty much go do crack sealing until you hit 50,000. So that's kind of the plan with that. So then a more exciting one, the County Road 45 project, Pike Lake Road. It's a road reconstruction project. LHB has been doing the design and WSB has been helping with the right-of-way. We plan on issuing TST bonds for that one. And so we have a $6 million budget with that project. I believe early March is when LHB should be coming back to us with some final design ideas. And then from there, I think some additional public meetings are going to be need to have so everybody's on the same page with that one. We have our salt sand shed and cold storage buildings. We talked about that in some other meetings. And our plan with that one is to use, we can use our state aid funds on those structures, which is great, because that really helps us fund these projects. And what's nice is, they split it up kind of based on your mileage allocation. And so we can use about 60% of the cost of the structure can be covered about with state aid funds. And then the other 40%, we're planning on utilizing our undesignated fund balance. And we've talked about that before. So hopefully we don't have to, come back to the county and the general fund with anything. I think we can take care of it in-house at the highway department. And then for the salt shed, right now we're debating between fabric, the fabric coveralls you see everywhere on the sides of the road, like the one we have up in Grand Marais here at the east end of town, versus a treated timber structure. There's quite a big cost difference between the two. And so we're still kind of hammering out which way we want to go, considering the life cycle cost of these is kind of important. One of the last construction projects we're looking at for 2022 is the timber bridge in Grand Portage. This has been it's been a treat being able to get every entity involved with this together. So it's the national park, it's the BIA, it's South Dakota State University of anybody, and us here at the highway department. And I think how all this came about was SDSU has a grant on studying timber bridges, and since not a lot of places utilize timber bridges, we do still. We got zeroed in as an ideal location for this. And so what's kind of neat is we're looking at realigning 17 away from the historic bridge that's up there to construct a new timber bridge. That way, if you're not familiar with the bridge that's up there right now, with cars and pedestrians, having that shared bridge, it creates a big safety issue. And so, we think, keeping the bridge or making it a pedestrian bridge, and then creating a new vehicular bridge is our kind of path forward there. And so I think that one's coming in very roughly at about $1.5 million. So design services, like I had mentioned before, there's a couple of projects we're putting out for RFPs, or planning to. The Pine River Bridge. So it's a timber structure right now. And whether it's timber or if it turns into pre-stressed concrete, those design services generally cost more than a culvert replacement. So kind of what I've been going with, and it's a guesstimate, an educated guesstimate, if you will, is about $100,000 for these timber or pre-stressed concrete bridges, somewhere in that realm. That's just based on previous proposals we've received. Similarly, for culvert designs or concrete slab designs, those tend to hover around about $50,000 for a consultant to do those designs for us. Both these structures are levy dependent, and they're both for bridge replacements. The Fifth Avenue West reconstruction, again, that contract was already awarded. I think that project total is about $1.6 million. What's nice with that is we've been saving up our municipal state aid funds for a few years. And so that's huge. And so instead of utilizing all of our state aid allocation on one project, we've been able to save up quite a bit. And so that's been really nice. And then the last two, design services, like I had mentioned, in-house, the little double track river bridge, and then the Mill to Hill and the Four Corners, that mill and overlay project. And what's nice with that one is we actually were awarded some federal money for the mill and overlay. We'll utilize that for that project. And so the last bit I wanted to kind of go over and talk about was kind of when we need resolutions and approvals for project design and construction. It kind of seems a little all over the place, or it seems very repetitive. And if that's how we want to keep it, that's fine. But I just wanted to talk about it and see, if me coming back for each individual project, throughout its entire life, to kind of go through these resolutions and approvals. So right now, when a project goes out for RFP or it's being designed, we need approval or a resolution. Awarding the contract when I get the RFPs back requires approval or a resolution. Posting the project for contractors to bid on, again, requires a resolution. You can see where I'm going with this. Awarding the contract, again, another resolution, and then even the final payment to complete the project, another resolution and approval. And it's so far what I've seen is this gets done for each project. So for example, if we have 7 projects, it's a lot of individual things. So something I was thinking about was, looking at, like, for example, you look at the 2022 plans that I had just spoken about. And, something would be, if we talk about that and the board is approved, is on board with that plan, saying, we're going to do RFPs on these ones. These are the types of funds we're going after here. And, if everything's okay, we can approve that plan and just say, there, done. Obviously, updates would be provided throughout, but I wouldn't have to be coming after board approval or resolutions. And then the last resolution would kind of be for awarding, the contractor bid for construction. These plans assume everything's fiscally responsible. Some of the grants and permits that, we go after require board resolutions, like we saw earlier with the safe routes and the 5th Avenue. So obviously those would be addressed as needed. But overall, just trying to, I think, streamline the process a little bit of, instead of coming for that many resolutions. And what comes to mind with it in particular is if, projects are done and ready to be let out for bid at the beginning of a month, say, but I have to wait until the end of the month for a board meeting to come up. A couple of weeks might not sound that bad, but it kind of adds up. It's, especially with stuff that we want to push out in a timely manner. And so that's kind of where it really hit me, is kind of looking at this again. So we obviously feel free to talk about it and we can ask questions and go over stuff, but that's all I had for you. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you, Engineer Haas. Do we have some questions for him or comments?
Chairman Mills?
Yes, Commissioner Storley.
Thank you. Thank you, Robbie. That's a great report. Good ideas here about replacing some of the bridges and so forth. So that's a great start. My one question is about the salt and sand storage shed.
Yes.
Does it have to be moved, and where?
Does it have to be moved?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, that was kind of the whole point of that shed. MnDOT has asked us to relocate our pile from where it's currently located by, I think, the winter of 23. And so that's why summer of 22, we're proposing construction.
Mhm.
So then,
And where
yeah,
will
so we have, sorry, go ahead.
And where will it go?
We want to keep it on site. So somewhere here at the main building. So we're toying with a couple different, so we're toying with a couple different locations on site right here. A couple of the proposals we've received are generally a structure about 60 feet wide and 100 feet long, approximately 30 feet tall is what we're looking at.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions or comments for Engineer Haas? Commissioner Hawkins.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we approve a 2022 project list and we don't have money for that in the budget of 2022, how would you go about making the decision of what gets done and what doesn't get done?
Well, if we don't have money, we can't do anything, right? I can't just, it just doesn't appear. And so then the plan shuffles. Right now, this was something I had to put down on paper because of the bridge bonds. And so if we get them, great, awesome. We can, construct. And then regardless too, what's nice is the plans will be done. So if another opportunity comes up of, say, bridge bonds a different year, maybe a different grant, federal money, whatever it might be, we're ready to go this time of, hey, I can apply for it, plans are on the shelf and we're set to go. The reason right now it's a little iffy with the bridge bonds is because we don't have anything. You know, they kind of try and prioritize. So if you're ready to go, you get more priority, is generally how it works. So, but yeah, so if we don't get anything, then they sit. So I got the plans, but then it sits.
Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, Commissioner Storley.
Along those lines of talking about the process of you coming before the board, I do like the option of, you know, the streamlining the process and providing us updates, because I think the last thing we need to do is hold you up when it comes to receiving something and, you know, we're not available as a board meeting for you to come to. So I think that's a reasonable way to go.
No, I appreciate that. And I hope it doesn't sound like I'm coming off as like trying to hide things from the board or anything. I just, you know, it just seems like a very, very repetitive, cumbersome process that we could, you know, kind of do, you know, like I said, streamline it a bit. So there's room for improvement.
Well, and if we have a process to evaluate the plan, then we can do that, versus if we did not have a plan, then it's really needed to come before the board and to evaluate each time. So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, I appreciate the forethought there, and I certainly appreciate any efficiencies and streamlining we can do too, but we do need to all be on the same page with that plan to ensure that is possible. So.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Mr. Yorkie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to Robbie and his staff for their efforts to, wherever possible, try to find grant funding for our levee-dependent bridges. You know, I think we all know the situation in terms of the needs for our, you know, deficient bridges, and we have finite county funds to use for that. So any effort that we can make to get outside funding in the form of grants or other assistance, we need to be doing that. And I see Robbie and his staff being very aggressive with that. So thank you.
Thank you, Minister Yorkie. And yeah, I appreciate that as well. Any other questions or comments? For myself, I see a lot of value in having this annual plan in place, and to really enable the department to move forward on these things without having to wait for the timing of board meetings. And I think as long as we're getting on that same page with what that annual plan should be, I think it makes a whole lot of sense. So. Anybody else? Or anything else? I'm hearing and seeing nothing. So is there any more specific feedback you'd like, Engineer Haas?
I guess just the board's approval of kind of that streamline, you know, so we had talked about kind of 2022 and the very tentative plan. You know, some things are a little easier to nail down than other ones. But right now, you know, if things go according to plan, you know, that process, and then similarly with the streamlining, I guess, of, you know, do you want me to come to you when, you know, with kind of every single step, or is it kind of like I'll give you an example for 2021 construction. You know, we're in the process of getting things ready to let out for bid, right? And so I think the current process is me coming to you for board approval to say, hey, can I let these out? And then you go, yes. And then I can go do it. And then I come back again and say, hey, we got our things back. Here's the lowest we're picking. Do you approve? Then yes. And then, you know, so you can kind of see this versus, you know, if I can say, if we can kind of skip that first step and say, well, you know, I'm getting things ready for bid, which now, you know, and then when we get the, you know, whatever bids come back and, you know, we do our scoring and we pick one, and then I can come to you and say, hey, can I award the contract to, you know, whoever to do this construction? I guess, is that okay for now and into the future?
Yeah, Commissioner Sullivan.
Mr. Chair, I just want to share that I too really support the idea of streamlining all of this. given the fact that we have such a short construction season. I think it's critical that Robbie has the opportunity to get out there and get things done. And I see this as a great way to deal with that shortened construction season.
I agree. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. One other thing I would like to add, just from what you said, Engineer Haas, was in regards to Commissioner Hawkins' concerns, just about the budget and if the bonds don't come through. And I think as far as updates are concerned, that would be very important for the board to be privy to that sort of adjustment in the schedule or change in funding. But otherwise, I wouldn't have concerns there. I did see Commissioner Swanson unmuted. Did you have a comment as well, sir?
Only, Mr. Chair, that I also support the streamlined process.
Thank you. Well, do we need a formal resolution here to approve the 2021/2022 plan? Or are you just looking for general concerns or support?
I think it's just general support, and not to put Molly on the spot too, but if there's anything county policy existing wise that we need to, obviously we want to streamline, but I don't want to do anything illegal. So if it's as simple as just board approval and everything's good, and I don't know off the top of your head.
I've been paying attention to your presentation, and I think it is well thought out and probably consistent with statute. And as we start to implicate it or put it into place, you and I can work together to make sure we have the right language and whatever you do bring before the board.
Sure. Awesome. Well, that sounds good. And I know, for what it's worth too, I talked to our state aid office, and from their end of things, it's more of a county policy, like, how do we want to do business with this? And so I know on that end, we're okay. So I guess, I guess at this point, it's action to approve. I don't think an official resolution, I don't think we need that, but. No.
Great. Well, yeah, and as far as policy is concerned, if we are going to move more to the streamlined model and having that annual construction plan, I think it's probably something the highway committee maybe should work on a policy in regards to that, and then that's something the board can either or discuss at least, or approve or turn down. But just having that in place, I think, would just help formalize the process and formalize the streamlining. So, and help future boards as well.
That sounds good. And when I retire, I didn't know what to do when I got here. So I was like, I don't know, I'm asked the board for everything.
Yes, better to err on that side, I'd say.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, that sounds like you've got the blessing with the board here for that plan moving forward. And yeah, if we can work on something a little more formal, that would make me more comfortable. But we'll put that into the hopper and get at it. So
great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Item number 6. We're on to MIS with Rena Rogers, and item A is the 2021 MIS update. Good morning, Rena.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, and thanks for this opportunity to do what I do every year, which is come in front of the board and provide you with a little bit of an update on how we spend the money that you allow us to budget. And as you know, I mean, maybe our projects aren't quite as expensive as the highway departments, but they are certainly critical as we serve every single department and citizens as well in our department. So I think it's important that that you have an idea of what we're doing and what we're planning and how that fits into the whole of supporting other county services, which is really kind of what we do. So if I could, I'm going to share my screen, have a presentation here. Let's see. I think this is the one. And can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, well, good. All right. So Like I said, this is something that I have done every year. This will be the 6th year that I have done this. And I will welcome questions throughout, although you might find it easier, whatever's easier for you. If you have questions during the presentation, that's fine. I can't see everybody, so you have to just speak up. But otherwise, I'll take questions at the end as well. So let's see. All right, so basically today I'm going to do a brief overview of MIS, talk about our departmental strategic plan, what our mission and vision and strategies are, and then how those strategies and that vision leads to project results. I'll tie those two things together. And then I'll talk at the end about projects going forward. These are the things I plan to cover. One never knows in what order they might end up being covered, or what else might end up in there. But hopefully I will get to all of these things today. So I would be remiss to in this presentation not talk a little bit about the extraordinary year that 2020 was. For a number of reasons. One, I found myself not just being the MIS director, but also being the interim county administrator, which meant that I didn't have the same day-to-day opportunity to work with my staff that I usually do. And I have 4 extraordinary staff members who just carried the ball wonderfully with very minimal direction. And they had a very significant role this year. I think you could argue that for the county and for many other places as well, that technology was very key to continuity of service during COVID with all the remote work, with remote meetings, and a lot of other things that we just needed technology for. If we'd had this pandemic 10 years ago, before we had broadband in this county, it would have been significantly different in the way we would have been able to respond. And I think the excellent broadband that we have through True North really made a big difference, because you could send people home with a computer and you could know that they would be able to access their work at the same level that they have at the office. We have done a number of other things that we have been working on that set us up pretty well. We've been primarily working on infrastructure and getting our infrastructure to a place where it's very secure and reliable, redundant. We've been doing things around mobile technologies, which I'll talk about a little bit more. We've put in new firewalls that give us more security, allow us to secure our mobile workers. And all of those things gave us a great platform to send people out of the office to work. And in addition to that, in March, when I first sat down with Grace and Mike Keyport and said, okay, here we go. We can see the world is changing out there. What do we need to do? In that month after that, 2 people built 60 computers, ordered them, got them on site, figured out who needed them, what needed to go on those laptops, and got those things out the door so people could work remotely, which is actually quite remarkable. And one of the other big technology areas that we were well set up for is our commissioner room, and the live streaming that we had done for many years prior to that gave us a great platform to be able to have our public meetings remote without spending any more money or creating any new infrastructure. We already had it, and we just had to pivot a little bit and use it a little bit differently. So, the work that we had done in the past set us up for success this last year and allowed us to mobilize considerably. I think one of the other things that MIS did this last year that was very important was through our GIS analyst, Kyle Oberg. And he came up with the idea and found the technology to create that Cook County coronavirus response hub. And, this has become, and we've driven traffic to it to become the source of truth and the place that anybody in the county can come to get the most recent information related to COVID. And that got launched by the end of last March. That's a kind of remarkable to me when I think about the timelines of everything. But by the last week of March, that site was launched for the first time. And it was featuring things at the time, like how do you get your groceries? You know, because everything at that time was you had to order them and they brought them out to you. So now it's taking a very prominent role in vaccine registration. And in the year that we have had that, less than a year that we've had that up, 11 months now, we've had over 120,000 hits to that site. So in a county with 5,000 people, that's a pretty phenomenal number. And it's, I just can't say enough about the work that all of my staff did, but in particular, Kyle on that particular project. And he continues to work on it. It's weekly updates. So that's a little bit about what went on last year at a macro level. So step back a minute to talk about what the department does. I'm cognizant that we have 3 new members of the board, and you may have a varying understanding of what even the MIS department is or does, or what MIS even means. It does mean Management of Information Services. And it's kind of an important distinction to talk about information services, because in this department, you can see that we have 3 distinct areas, and it's not just IT. Sometimes people think we're the IT department, but we also have radio communication, all the public safety communication, and we have GIS information as well, GIS analyst. And it's what's interesting to me is, as I talk to people at other counties, a lot of times these different service areas are not all in the same department. It varies by county. Sometimes the GIS people will be in land services, or radio communication will be with the sheriff's office because it's public safety communication. But I think it's really good that they're all together, because kind of taking a program view of these 3 things, you really, when you manage them together, you can sometimes make decisions that allow you to get benefits you wouldn't get if you were only looking at it through those individual places. And I think we try to do that. And a little later in the presentation, I'll speak to that with some specific examples of how those 3 things can work together. Our mission, we work on our strategic plan every year. We review it. A couple of years ago, we, after doing a lot of work on improving our infrastructure, we refined it. Our mission is providing technology solutions that enhance the delivery of county services. And I think it's really important to note, and I often remind my staff that county government existed for a long time without technology. And many things that people do are the same things they did before. In the recorder's office and the auditor's office, they did them without technology. They did them on paper, with paper and pencils and forms and a lot of other things. And can we go back? No, not easily, because the state dictates a lot of technology that we have to use now. But my point is, technology should make that service delivery better. And if it doesn't make it better, I think it's legitimate to ask the question, why are we using it at all? So this idea that we need to enhance the delivery of county services, that we need to add value to what everybody else does is our mission. And it's what I think we try to keep in front of us at all times. I'm not sure why it's not showing you that. Okay, there it is. All right. Our vision is the thing that we try to do. Remember, a vision isn't where you already are, maybe. It's what you strive for every day. It's something that's in the horizon. And our vision is always, we always ask ourselves, are we doing, how good are our services? Can we make them better? We want to have great services. And it's not enough to have great services. We want to do the things that make them sustainable. We want to make sure they're available through better security, better backups, reliability, better equipment, whatever it is. So great service is always available is the thing that we always kind of hold up and say, is this what we're doing with this particular thing? Within that strategic plan, we have 5 strategies that we focus on. These, and I'm going to take them one at a time and explain a little bit about what each of them mean. So infrastructure excellence is something that we focused on a lot initially because we had a lot of issues. You know, people have heard me tell some war stories before, but when I first got here, the phone system could go down for a couple of days. We didn't have good fiber in between our buildings. And so if there was a little bit of rain, you got moisture on the copper lines and somebody had to go over to the highway department and reset a switch so that they had internet and phones. You know, we had a lot of work to do. So we've been focusing on that. We've been focusing on replacements, the quality standardized, you know, architecture. We've worked on redundancy by having multiple backups of our data and of our applications. We've worked on our security. And some of now infrastructure, of course, includes cloud services. And those cloud services are one of the reasons that we were able to be more mobile, because things were achieved, could be accessed by the internet instead of, you know, being on site with a more traditional computer setup. It allowed people to work remotely. We also have focused on how we support and we've helped launch specific department applications. And then of course, infrastructure also includes our towers and some of our other, you know, that tower construction and upgrades as well. So that's kind of infrastructure excellence in a little more than a nutshell. Define and refine MIS processes. This is a strategy that I like to refer to as the last mile. A lot of people never get here. And I think it's very important that we keep our documentation, that we have documentation, and then that we keep it current, that we have policies, because we have many things that we need policies on, but that we're even required to have policies on through the CGIS network, the public safety, FBI stuff, as well as HIPAA things, but also just what are our policies for backup? What are our policies for, you know, choosing cloud services? All of those policies need to exist. So we've had many projects that are tied to that and continue to work on that. E-government solutions, these are things, you know, these are applications that can go on the field on a tablet that Kyle creates. Certainly the coronavirus response hub was an e-government or kind of a solution. We also support the website, and we have employee intranet updates. And I think the intranet is one of the places where we have a lot of opportunity in the future to do more with process improvement and optimizing some of our processes and document management for other departments. And last, customer service excellence, which I think we're always trying to figure out how to do that better. We have a great website, or a great help desk, I'm sorry now, that we launched a couple of years ago. And it was very helpful because it was one that, you know, again, was in the cloud. And so we could have people anywhere who could still access our help desk. And then we had remote tools so that people didn't have to come in the office, or we didn't have to go to them. Someone could log in and fix their computer many times from, or see what the issue was from a distance and help them out. So the other thing that I think we focused on from a customer service point of view this year was our support for public health and emergency management response. They were certainly our highest priority customer this year. And when as it goes, when Grace needed something, Grace got it. And because the work that she was doing was so critical for everybody in the community. So within the department and those three areas, the first area, which is kind of an obvious one, is information technology. This is basically in two parts. It's the part that most people see. It's our end user services, our web services. It's the part they see, the computers on people's desk, the applications they use in their office, the website. That's one part of our business. Underneath that is our infrastructure that supports all of that. And that really is divided into two parts. It's network and it's servers. And within that, we have our network security and firewalls. And servers these days are, less, the question we always ask now is, do we need to buy it or can we put it in a cloud? When we buy it, we usually have to make sure that we can back it up locally as well. That includes, 5-year replacement plan. It includes licensing. It includes a lot of other things. So we always look now at, does this need to be on premise or is there a cloud-based option for us? And then last, we have the help desk services in that one, which is basically all the incidents, responses, or requests that come to MIS are, come through our help desk and are managed that way, and we can report on those. We also have set up the help desk for the maintenance department, and I sort of have on my in my own project plan to set that up for HR and maybe for communication as well. And what that will do is it gives our employees one place to make requests to multiple different people rather than going to send an email to this person, go to the help desk for that person and go wherever. This would be kind of a one-stop shop for all kinds of central services. So we're working on expanding that, that as well. Our GIS area is, has a lot of operational tasks and a lot of project work. I've listed there some of the operational tasks, working with our various land service departments, but also there's custom maps and the highway maps and a lot of the applications that the sheriff's department has, for example, have a GIS integration in them. So like in the squad cars, there are maps that they can see on their computer when they're going, answering a call, or maps of buildings, that kind of thing in there. So it's a tremendous amount of GIS integration also with the 911 system. So I would call that operational work. That's just ongoing project work or tasks that need constant updating to manage that data set. When I first got here, Kyle made the comment to me that arguably GIS makes up around 80 to 90% of the county data. At the time he told me that, I thought he had to be mistaken. But over time, I've come to realize he's probably right. All of our property data, including permits and wells, tax information, highway information, including culverts, center lines, bridges, public safety uses GIS integration. There's an awful lot of data that we manage that has a GIS component to it. So a very important department that, and we're always trying to figure out how to do this with one resource. So one of the things that as a board you approved last year would be, kind of operationalizing our pictometry projects going forward and figuring out how to do a little every year rather than trying to get a big bunch of money all at once to do it. And by doing that, we can fund it through some recorders fee money. And so looking at ways all the time to operationalize those big projects so that they don't overwhelm us. And honestly, who knew? I would be the last person that would have ever known that a GIS tool would become the foundation of the way we communicated to the public about the coronavirus response last year and still ongoing. And then finally, and certainly not least of our departments, is radio communication. Within that, we support 11 towers. Through the ordinance we did a few years ago, tower ordinance, we've carved out 10 tower districts on county land. which gives us the ability to control tower proliferation and focus any new tower development within those tower districts rather than, across the road and everywhere else that people might see them. We have over 800 radios that are supported by one person. Those radios are used not only by county staff, but also by volunteer fire departments, the hospitals, school bus drivers. They're used in events. We have a cache that we loan out when, like, the John Bear Grease comes through. So it's a lot. There's a lot there. We've worked really hard over the last few years to rein it in, to come up with a good system of operationalizing the maintenance on those, getting that on a calendar, making sure that we stay up on things like keeping brush cleared and inspections, regular inspections, so that we can see if there's any damage and we can take care of it before there's a bigger problem. We've also, as you know, I think got the whole contract thing under control. In the past, we had lots of people on towers and nobody was paying. They were using county electricity. They were, it was a free-for-all. So we have a really good process now that we get authority from through the tower ordinance, and we are systematically putting more cell service throughout the county, and that provides good support. As you may or may not know, last week the Hovland Tower came online. That fills a tremendous, fills a tremendous gap for our public safety people, particularly our deputies, as they drive through that area, and they did not have any connectivity for their MDCs, their computers that they have in their cars. They will now in that whole area. And that's huge when you have deputies that don't drive in pairs. They're out there by themselves. So having that extra connection is really important. So we've created a model that's very sustainable and provides us with revenue for tower replacements, for maintenance on those towers, for a variety of projects, and probably may eventually even cover the operational costs of those towers, like utilities and maybe even a salary, without impacting the levy. Before that, these towers were built and nobody had a plan for what do you do when you need to replace them. We have a plan now. And so that's really important. But I think one of the really important things that we've done with radio communication is we've set a vision that says, we want to maximize services. We want to bring as many services for public safety and citizens as possible, like WTIP is on our 3 of our towers. But we want to minimize the impact on the environment. So we are very careful about minimizing the number of towers, minimizing the height of the towers. What's the least impactful decision that we can make around towers is how we have proceeded and how we will, I think, be able to continue to proceed. So here's the 3 parts all together. And I think hopefully I can make the case to you that everything is connected, that the sweet spot is, that sweet spot in the middle of that Venn diagram is by using these things and managing them together, that we can have enhanced services, that all of these services are better as a result of that. I'm going to give you a couple of examples really quick of what I mean by that, how they all work together. So if the assessor's office or the highway department is, or land services, all of them are using mobile devices in the field now, and they have access to the internet via cell service, which is increasing. Sometimes they use those and they capture the information and then come back and upload it once they get in the office. But as there's more cell service, they can actually do some of that live. An employee who's out in the field all day can check their email, look for updates or new information from a supervisor. They can look up a historical permit in the field using SharePoint on there without coming back to the office and looking at a file. They can gather GIS points and see the impact of those changes real time with the high resolution photo background because of our pictometry project. They can update a permit all while performing the inspection. That all of those parts involve all three of those divisions of this department. Another example would be when Rowan is in the field, our radio communication analyst. He can check he's at a tower site and he can see, maybe a piece of equipment that has fallen down or is loose. He can go and check site drawings to identify whose antenna it belongs to. He can check contracts of the tenants. He can also update an operational calendar in real time, or he can add some GIS points from a site to create or improve a map on the site. So he can do all that while he's on a site currently. And then we're starting to work with the highway department this year. We're creating some operational maps for them that so that they can keep inventory and do a better job of replacement around culverts and signs. So these are all linked together. And I think the way we've developed them and the way we continue to develop them just strengthens that relationship between them and provides better and better service for county departments. So just a quick look at the projects last year. I mentioned that we did 20 projects last year as opposed to 45 the year before. And I would like to note, because this is a very prolific department, that in 6.5 years, 160 projects have been completed. So you can see that most years it's pretty productive up there. This shows our projects, a breakdown of our projects by strategic goal. So like infrastructure projects, we did 11 projects, 55% of our projects last year. Many of those were scheduled equipment replacements. They were assisting with the 911 system replacement, which is a very significant system for the county. It was the MIT, or the Mitt-Lake, excuse me, not MIT, Mitt-Lake Tower project, which is going to add a lot of redundancy for some of the spurs to our armor system. So if we had an outage, towers wouldn't go out. They would still be online. We worked with PHHS to install a new forensic interview system and a security system for recycling center. That's kind of a sampling of the projects that we did in infrastructure last year. In MIS processes, there were just one project last year because these tend to be my projects, and I was kind of AOL last year in the MIS department. I completed one policy, so there's one project there. E-government projects, we rolled all those people out to a remote workforce. We did the coronavirus response hub. We developed that way to operationalize the cost of updating pictometry, and mostly helped initially with the attorney's office implementing a new application, but once we got them started, they did most of that work themselves. And mobile services was 3 projects. We upgraded our VPN, which we needed to do. That's our virtual private network, which allows people to be remote and get into files in the office. And we had to upgrade our firewall and our VPN because we had so many more people outside than in. So we needed to make that happen. We also did a lot of work implementing our mobile device policy, and we did some tower projects as well. And then if we want to take a different look at those 20 projects by customers, just really quickly, enterprise means for all of county government, we did 7 projects, or 35% of our projects were there. Those were generally infrastructure, network security projects. Our citizen projects, we did 3. Those were GIS apps and website upgrades, service on towers. The big one, again, I mentioned it before, is the COVID response hub. Multiple departments, these are generally things like copier replacements, new servers, department-specific projects. This was like the 911 upgrade and some of the armor projects. So 30% of our projects were there. And last MIS projects are ones that we do to improve how we do our work. And we did 2 of those. They're operational projects like policy development. All right, are you still awake? Hopefully. So just a quick word, infrastructure projects aren't going away, even though we've improved it. That's an ongoing thing to keep it humming really well. It's like getting the oil changed in your car. You got to keep it up. Just because you have a new car, if you don't keep the oil changed, you're going to run into problems sooner or later. And so the focus of them is reliability, is security. It's a bad world out there. There's a lot of bad actors, and security is a constant battle. And so we continue to find new ways to do best practices to stay ahead of it as much as we can. One of the things that we also do is, and the new commissioners will see that, we try to budget on a replacement schedule rather than say, okay, next year we're going to replace 10 PCs instead of 30 PCs and 1 firewall and whatever. Instead, I say, hey, PCs and laptops get replaced every 3 years, servers every 5 years, network equipment every 7 years. We have X number of network things, X number of PCs, whatever, divide it out, and then this is our budget for that year. And what that has done is a number of things. One thing I would like to add is, as we've gotten better about this, we have taken on more and more and more work without increasing our staff. So when I got here, it'll be 7 years in 2 weeks. We were supporting 60 PCs. Now we support almost 150, same number of staff. So by getting control of our operations, we've been able to do a lot more. And we've been able to do a lot more with less as well. By regular replacements, by putting things in the cloud, by consolidating some of our equipment where before we had, servers that were only partially utilized. My budget requests have been going down for capital, even though we've increased the number of people we support and users we support. In 2017, the first year I requested $75,000. The next year, because we were fixing a lot of stuff, we requested $83,000. In 2019, $82,000. By 2020, that number went down to $74,000. And last year we requested $74,000. So we've not only stabilized it, but we've hit a place where we're able to take advantage of reduced costs in hardware and be just more effective and efficient about the way we do it. So I was hoping that's what we would be able to do if we fixed things and got it under control, that it would level out the costs, but it's also bringing the costs down. So our project goals for 2021, and we're now well into the second month. We have a number of cell service projects that are underway that we expect will get finished this year. We will continue to improve our armor coverage and redundancy through the Mitt Lake project, where we're changing some things around so we have redundant paths, which will it just makes it more secure. Mobile maps, including Google style highway and plat maps, are on the agenda, as well as some of those other projects I talked about for GIS inventory for the highway department. We're going to work with our new PIC to do a website overhaul that focuses on mobile users, because that's the way most people access the web now, and also better accessibility. More policy development, getting our policies completed. And right now I'm in the middle of working on service level agreements for each department, which is basically a documented inventory of everything we do specifically for each department, and what our response times are and how you get service and when that service is available. So I think that's all I've got. I've been talking for a while, so I'm going to close this out and see if anyone has any questions for me.
Thank you, Rena. Great presentation. Always very informative when we get this annual presentation, and just shows how busy you've been, how busy the department's been. And again, that doesn't really begin to touch on your role as the interim administrator. So thank you for this last year of work, and just want to point out even how much was done while you're trying to juggle it all. So that says a lot about how you structure the department and the team that you have there, and it's wonderful. So thank you.
I can't say enough about that team. They're really an incredible group of guys.
Yeah. Well, do we have any questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes, I'd just like to thank you so much, Rena, for providing us with enhanced services and making it sustainable. The fact that your budget is so predictable is so helpful to all of us. And so just kudos for all you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Any other questions or any other comments? The other thing I'd like to, I know it's apples to oranges here, but it's a really good model of, and again, there's many different factors, but of where we'd like to go with other departments too, as far as that predictability and that planning and replacements, and it just seems like a really excellent model. So yeah, taking good notes there. Thank you.
Well, it's when you have things are not organized that way and you want to go to that, we used to call it at the state, it's like changing the tires on the bus while a bus is going 60 miles an hour down the road. And it's, you really have to work at it. And sometimes it doesn't work very well because there are things you have to do, but you still have to work on these other things if you're ever going to get to that new state. You have to do both. And it's fun. It's been fun.
Well, that reminds me, didn't they make a movie about that with Keanu Reeves or something? Maybe that was something else. Commissioner Hawkins.
There's Wonder Woman. Does that count? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, that's maybe what I was thinking of. Commissioner Hawkins.
Yeah, thank you, Rena. You always do a very good job in your presentations, and I appreciate that. I wanted to go back to the help desk for maintenance. I thought when will that be totally up and running? What's your time frame?
The help desk for maintenance?
For the maintenance department?
There now is a way that you can do requests on there, and there's you can use the help desk also to report incidents. That's been up and running for a while.
Okay, because I had a meeting with the sheriff and I didn't say like he used it, and so I thought maybe it wasn't up and running for everybody. Okay, thank you.
There's an old saying about that, about leading a horse to water, right?
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, it's one of the challenges with the help desk is getting people to use it and not bypass what they've done in the past, which is they have the person's cell phone number.
Yeah, right.
And so that's a cultural change.
Okay,
so we continue to work on it.
All right, thank you.
And I struggle with that too. Whether it be reserving a county vehicle when we did travel, or requesting a different, headphone device or laptop or whatever. I don't use the help desk frequently enough to have that be my method. It's just reaching out via email or whatever. So
yeah, it's we have a good help desk, and most
making steps in that direction. It's really helpful to have that option. So thank you for your work there, and we'll keep trying.
That's all we ask.
Yeah. Mr. Administrator Yorkie.
Yeah, Chairman Mills, your comment about MIS serving as a good model for other departments sounded a little bit like a homework assignment to me. And as far as the building maintenance piece goes, I think Rena's exactly right. I mean, if you do your planning in the way that she has done, it creates predictability. And we're currently, and I'll be talking about this later in my report, we're currently working in a much more reactive mode when it comes to building issues. And I think using Rena's model and applying it to the way that we manage our facilities is going to go a long way in helping us get out of that reactive mode. So really appreciate the work that Rena has done. It is sustainable. And as she's thinking about life post-county, she's leaving us in really great shape. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Minister Yorkie. And it didn't happen all at once, right? Like it was, assessing the situation, taking inventory, reacting to immediate needs while trying to address these ongoing and more systemic, issues and models. And even with the towers, say, that was just another opportunity for greater efficiency and reducing costs and developing that predictability. So there's so many different factors, and it's hard to wrangle them all in. And again, maybe not apples to oranges, but it's a really good model that we can try to incorporate into planning processes. So,
the history of IT, I mean, it's not very old. It's a fairly young discipline. And for a long time, most people in IT acted like a bunch of teenagers. It's like, oh, look at this cool thing. I can make this happen. Woo! And then they throw that over their shoulder, and then there'd be another cool thing, right? And, it needs to grow up. It needed to grow up. And there are disciplines out there, something called ITIL or, IT service management, which basically operationalizes IT and makes it act like a utility instead of like a constant unnerved, unhinged project that's never quite done, which was also, by the way, a black hole for a lot of money. And so when you operationalize it, you make it very predictable. You make it so that it doesn't break, that it's always, people count on it, right? Just like they do electricity. So you try to make that as boring as watching paint dry. And then when you do a project, you look at it and you say, how are we going to sustain that within our current operations? And you have a way to put it in there and continue to manage it. That's why over 7 years, we've literally tripled the amount of work that we're responsible for, but yet we haven't added more staff because we've created an operational process that isn't constantly like catching on fire. And it's more manageable. You replace things in an orderly way. And when you do that, you don't have things breaking down as much, which gives you more time to provide customer service and other things. So buildings are the same, they're the same way. If you wait to replace things until they break, that creates an interruption of service. So we don't think about it that way. We replace them when we know that they're getting older and they're likely to break. We do that in a best practices way. And so it's really important, I think, as commissioners that you understand that, because keeping that going steady will save you a lot of money in the long term, in the IT world and probably in the building world as well, by just maintaining what you have.
Yeah, thank you. I agree 100%. It's not easy to replace a building, but yes, the maintenance is what I'm going to lean on there.
Well, I think sometimes when we hear proposals on projects, whether they're IT proposals or whatever, people say, well, this is what it's going to cost you. Let's take the lie. This is what building cost you. The real question is, what will it cost us every year for maintenance, for janitorial services, for utilities? There are two level of costs. There's hey, we're building it, and then what does that add to our budget to maintain that? And IT is the same. IT is the same. And so we always have to look at that total picture of that operational part of it. It's not as sexy, but it's probably more important. So anyway, enough of my lecturing. I'm sorry.
It's wonderful. Much appreciated. Hardly a lecture, just really good thinking.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. It's always nice to be able to share what we do.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other comments? All right. Well, thank you, Rena, and well, excellent models to go with, and hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll
Thanks.
talk soon.
You too. Thanks, you all.
Thank you.
All right. Does anyone need to take a 5-minute break here? I'm fine. Oh, Administrator Yorkie and Commissioner Huggins, great. I'll move to take a 5-minute recess. Sorry, it's 10:10. We'll meet back at 10:15.
Great, thank you. Morning, Bob.
Good morning. I almost clicked the power. It's right next to the mute.
You don't want to do that.
No, this wouldn't be the right time to do that.
Yeah.
All right, I have 10:15 here. Commissioner Storley, are you with us? We'll wait another minute here. If you are with us, Commissioner Storley, you're on mute.
Yes, I am with you.
Awesome.
I have a little problem in that I sprain my foot so that I have to get up and down quite often. Otherwise, my foot is on a shoebox or a chair. So if you, when I leave, it means I have to stretch a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot about your injury, and sorry for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll certainly, with all these techno issues as well, I'm always trying to be especially patient with any call and response here. So, but thank you for the reminder there. All right, well, I'll call the meeting back to order here, and we're on to item 7 on our agenda. That's the assessor, and we have 7A, and we have Assessor Thompson here. 7A is Scheduling County Board of Appeals and Equalization. Good morning, Assessor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Yeah, so the first item I have here is just to schedule the County Board of Appeals meeting. We have that option of doing it in person, virtually, or hybrid. So that's really the only thing that's, kind of up in the air of making a decision on today. Otherwise, I think that the date that I'm recommending, Thursday, June 17th, would be in line, consistent with what we've done in years past. It allows us the 10 days if we decide we want to recess and reconvene. So I guess I can kind of leave the discussion of the virtual / in-person option to you guys. I will offer that if you do wish to provide an in-person option, I can do it the way we did last year, where I'm in the commissioner's room, and we can kind of just make that available in case somebody doesn't have that the availability of using the internet or phone.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate options for people, and think the hybrid mode would be the way to go there. But I welcome discussion from the board on any other thoughts there. Oh.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Also, the meeting, we do require appointments. So if we were to have somebody planning to attend, we would have that documented ahead of time and on the schedule so that we could make arrangements for accessing the courthouse and things like that.
Thank you, Assessor Thompson. Commissioner Hawkins, you were raising your hand.
Yeah, I just want to say that I agree that the hybrid option is probably a good way to go.
Okay. And otherwise, the time and the date, again, is in line with how we've been doing it, and that seems to be, after normal business hours to encourage as much participation possibilities that there could be. And yeah, I guess I'd look for a motion to schedule this time and date here. June 17th, 2021, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. in hybrid mode.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. We have a motion. Is there support?
Swallowson, seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Swallowson. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Swallowson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Storley?
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is aye as well. We have unanimous approval there. Thank you. And item 7B, still with Assessor Thompson here, is property tax abatement. I'll turn it over to you, Assessor Thompson.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners. So the second item here is application for property tax abatement. This is for, it kind of came right at the weird window of time where it almost would have just been an administrative change, but the timing was just after January 1st when we really got to review the application. So it will be officially listed as an abatement if approved, and it will just be a reduction in the taxes for 2021. So essentially it doesn't have an impact on, well, yes, it does, because abatements do come out of the policy, but it's the $224 property tax abatement for Kevin Tweest due to a hardship.
All right. Do we have any questions for Assessor Thompson around the abatement? Seeing no questions or hearing no questions, I would look for a motion to approve the abatement.
Motion to approve, Storley.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. Is there support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. We have a motion and support. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Storley?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Swalson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is aye as well. Unanimous approval of property tax abatement there. Thank you, Assessor Thompson. Anything else you need to comment on at this point?
Not necessarily. I guess just in preparation for the local boards, I know we do have 2 certified trained members on the panel now, so we at least have a backup plan if somebody wasn't able to make it. And I guess I can't really say if I'm going to anticipate a busy appeals season. We generally try to be, as conservative as we can when we're making an upward adjustment. So there may be, a number of folks, taxpayers in the greater Grand Marais area that were part of the quintile review that more significant or bigger changes to the records. But in general, I think that we're going to, like I said, take that conservative approach on things that need to be adjusted for our sales studies ratios to be in compliance with the Department of Revenue. But for the most part, we're going to be kind of counteracting the depreciation of improvements with a little bit of an upward adjustment. And, I looked at our sales study for Grand Marais and Lutzen particularly, and without making an adjustment, those do fall within the acceptable range. But a lot of our sales occurred in the late part of the season. Our sales study ends in September. So there were a lot of sales that happened after September in 2020, and those are going to have an impact on adjustments we make in 2021. So, rather than knowing that we're going to have this big, in market terms, a bigger increase next year, we may spread that out a little bit over the 2 years. So for areas like Grand Marais, they might see a smaller adjustment this year and another one again next year, just based off of the demand and the sales we've been having. I wrote that article for the County Connections last week, and the market is just something else. There's been a couple of listings that come on, and within a matter of a day or two, they're off the market with an offer. So right now, that number of active listings is around 30. And for the most part, a lot of those are going to be condos and townhomes down at the resorts. So there really isn't a whole lot of cabin or home stock available. So it's a sign of the times, and it's something that we're going to do our best to be conservative and approach it with the that conservative thought in mind. But we also have to follow the market as best we can.
Yes, thank you for that kind of mini update, Administrator Yorkie.
Yeah, while we've got Mr. Thompson on the meeting, it probably would be good to mention some information that we got yesterday about mailers that county residents are receiving that appear to be an official invoice. They look like they could be from a government agency, but they're not. And it's basically an offer to provide information about property records that can be freely obtained directly from the county. So this is some vendor, I think it's based in Florida, and the invoice is for like $94. And if you just open it up, it looks kind of official, and it looks like something that you might be required to pay. And so we are working on a media release to notify the public that these are not official documents, that residents are not obligated to pay them. And just so that people aren't thinking that this is coming Cook County or the state or some other official entity, because it's not. And Bob, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Yorkie. I guess you covered it pretty well. I know at the top of the document, it says two things that I think capture people's attention as if it might look like it's coming from an official government entity. It says property assessment services right there at the top right corner. And on the top left corner, it says compliance solutions. So we also have this host compliance monitoring and licensing our vacation rentals. So some people may even be part of that pool where they're, in the vacation rental pool, and they see this come along and just think it's something or part of the licensing aspect. But what it looks like to me, when you read through it, they're offering, your assessment information, your property record. They're offering, they do say they're offering lists of comparable sales or recent sales that, you could maybe use to appeal to the county assessor's office. And then they're also offering proof that the documentations that the deeds have been recorded. So I guess you can't really say it's a scam if they are truly offering some, services or information, but it looks like the intent of, or in my opinion, the letter looks like it's made to look like it's something official, and all they have to really do in return to not be considered a scam is provide some information that is free to the taxpayer. If somebody wants information on their own property record, we are more than happy to provide that. If they want it emailed or mailed, there might be a charge for printing, but if they come into our office or make an appointment to pick it up, we can arrange that for free. If it's a business entity and they're looking for like a tax estimate on something, then, some of the stuff we charge for, like if a realtor or an appraiser is looking for some property information, we do charge for those. But for the most part, what they are offering is free information. And, even the person who had brought it up, they mailed it to their realtor because they recently purchased here in Cook County. They weren't sure if it was something that should be paid. And had it not been for some of the spelling and grammatical errors, that it wouldn't have really stood out as much to them. So I did send an email out to our association president for assessors, and the word's kind of going around. I think these things kind of happen, quite regularly, unfortunately, but he made the suggestion, and we're going to forward it on to the Attorney General's office, because it probably should be more clear that they're offering and not look more like a bill from assessment service, property assessment services. It's misleading in my opinion. So.
Well, yeah, thank you both for the heads up there. I hadn't heard about that, and
yeah, it literally came up just yesterday.
Yeah. Well, another I guess thing to keep on top of, but thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day.
You too.
All right, that moves us along to item 8 on our agenda with Land Services. We have Director Nelson with us here, and first item on the agenda there is, first and only rather, is 8A, the Passion Pit property recommendation, and I'll hand it over to Director Nelson at this time.
Hey, thank you and good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chair, and all. My Zoom link has been a little sketchy this morning, so I'm going to try to get this in quick. I've dropped off a couple times and have had to rejoin the meeting. So, in any case, this is a continuation of a discussion we've been having, and it came to the board last summer, where in last fall, a task force had been created for a period of 60 days to go ahead and try to shape the issues and such, and it had become fairly obvious to the task force that what was really needed was a longer, more formalized committee to go ahead and have a bit more of a public type process to gather in all of the issues related. What we have here are basically two kind of competing interests. We've got this old expired gravel pit at that location that MnDOT is looking to get off of its books. So there's an opportunity that had arisen. And then also so you have that in conjunction with its historic historic nature and interest in preserving the site. And then you have some public use of the property that has created some concern of area property owners for noise, trespass, and et cetera. So there's been a number of discussions on this, both at the Parks and Trails Commission level and at the commissioner level. The Parks and Trails Commission at last month's meeting went ahead and adopted a recommendation and forwarding that recommendation to the Board of Commissioners to go ahead and establish a larger committee to operate for a period of no more than 9 months. They're really sensitive to the time issue. They don't want this thing kind of being drawn out. MnDOT only has so much time where they can determine whether they want to release it to a public entity or put it out for bids on the private market. And so they wanted to go for a period of not more than 9 months, but it could finish up 6 months or so and whatever. So the Parks and Trails Commission is recommending the establishment of this committee. They recommend a membership of 9 folks, including a commissioner, a Parks and Trails Commission member, City of Grand Marais representative, Historical Society representative, a county staff member, and then 4 members of the public. And in their mind, they wanted to keep it diverse, to have all interests represented. So they wanted to have no less than 2 and no more than 3 members of the public that would be from the immediate area, and trying to represent a diversity of opinions. And certainly the board has the flexibility to determine however that task for, or the committee would take, how many folks would be on it, how long it would operate and such. But that at least is the recommendation to you. So we'd have some discussion on whether you wanted to go ahead and establish this committee, and if so, then we should spend a little bit of time too in discussion of the short range kind of impacts, because there's the longer range, and the committee is the intent of that was to go ahead and look at the longer range, whether the county even wanted to accept that parcel, and what to do with it, and then the shorter term would be to look to see if we could mitigate any of the adverse impacts on the surrounding area. It would be through some type of management of that facility. I have been in contact pretty much constantly with the MnDOT district engineer with regards to that property. And so in keeping in time, the concern was, do we have 9 months to be able to make this committee work and such? And the response that I got back from Mr. Hill of MnDOT was, yes, we do have 9 months. And what they would be looking for would be basically just an email from me after today's meeting to let them know what our intentions were with the property, what our timelines were with the property. And MnDOT, they said, would go ahead and work with us in that respect. So I guess that's what I have for you, and I just would turn it back to you, Mr. Chair, for any comments, questions, or discussion.
Thank you, Director Nelson. Let's start out with questions about the proposal from, or the idea from the Parks and Trails Commission. Any questions from any commissioners? Commissioner Sullivan?
I have a question about the 9-month timeline. I understand, and I just want to clarify this, that it's 9 months from when that task force begins. Is that correct?
Yes, thanks, Commissioner Sullivan and Mr. Chair. That is, thank you for that chance to make that clarification. The 9 months would be starting from the date of the first meeting of that committee. And it would be no more than 9 months from that standpoint. But yeah, that was what the recommendation is.
Thank you for clarifying. Any other questions immediately from commissioners?
I'm wondering, how is the people the 4 individuals, community at large people, if you have 10 people apply, how will you determine, and who will determine who gets to be on the committee?
Well, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hawkins, I can take that. And I know that we have had a standard application and to participate on committees and task force. And I believe one of those has been kind of massaged to specifically be tailored to this particular committee should the commissioners decide to go ahead and have this. And I would recommend that we would allow anybody who's interested to go ahead, and like you said, if we have 10 people, if we have 20 people interested, that we get these applications in, and then we would it would be my recommendation that the commissioner would establish basically a ad hoc type of committee to go ahead and review through the applications and come back to the Board of Commissioners with a recommended membership based off of those applications.
All right, Commissioner Sullivan.
I was reviewing, just to share this with everyone, I was reviewing all the properties along Old Shore Road and wondered if I looked at 14 different properties. 8 of them are residents of Grand Marais. 6 of them are people from outstate Minnesota. And I'm wondering about the prospect of sending a letter to all of those individuals, notifying them that there is a task force, if we so choose to do this, and sharing an application with them. Has anybody talked about that?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Sullivan, that statement has been made, and that option certainly is out there, and it would be easily enough done. We send out public notices for all of our conditional uses and everything like that. So we're very used to being able to pull in that databases of the properties in any given particular area. So we'd be happy to send out invitations along with the application.
Thank you.
That seems like a really good idea. And yeah, the idea is that we're putting together, if we do go ahead and form this committee, that we have broad representation, and the more applicants we get, the better chance we'll have to form that broad and comprehensive committee. Any other questions?
Chairman Mills?
Yes, Commissioner Storley.
I see on the application here that they're accepted to Friday, March 5th. It's a pretty short time frame considering that's already next week. How do you propose to get this out so the public knows?
Yeah, Administrator Yorkie.
I added that deadline, and the thinking was, it'd be good if we could get a list of recommended committee members to you for the next business meeting, but that timeframe may not be realistic, so that we're open to adjusting that.
Commissioner Sullivan.
I wonder if maybe mailing a letter to individuals along Old Shore Road and saying a 1-month time frame, or approximately 1 month, just so there's an opportunity to get the letters back. Maybe that's a 2-week timeline, but then a couple weeks to review those. That's my thinking. How about others?
Chairman Mills?
Yes, Commissioner Storley.
So are you just looking at the folks who live in that area, or are you looking for a wider band of community members to join the committee? Tim?
Well, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Storley, the idea was, at least coming from the Parks and Trails Commission, is that you would have kind of a greater representation from the immediate area, but that it would certainly also be open to the broader community perspective as well. So that you would have at least 2 people out of the 4 suggested from the immediate area, not more than 3, so that you could have at least 1 or 2 people of the 4 recommended public members from outside of that area or the broader community perspective.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sullivan.
I'm wondering if we're looking at 4 individuals, if we And I would very much like to see consideration of this, that we have an opportunity to solicit the viewpoints of our Anishinaabe or Ojibwe community. I think it's important to have a Grand Portage perspective, and also the perspective of maybe descendants of those that actually lived at Chippewa City. There are a number of those individuals living currently in Cook County, and I think that's a valuable historical perspective, and is a way to make sure that we are honoring everyone here and making sure everyone's at the table.
Director Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the ways that we can do that, if we definitely want to keep the committee size limited, and we want to have an odd number for voting purposes and such like that, that I noticed on the makeup, they did recommend a county staff person. Presuming it would probably be me as the Parks and Trails Director. And if that would be the case, then perhaps what we could do is take me and put me in an ex officio status, so that I'm not actually a voting member, that I'm help facilitating the process and such. But then that could open up to a Grand Portage and increase that number of the public from 4 to 5, and keeping the membership at 9, if that's what you wanted to do.
All right. Any more questions at this point, or do we have some comments or further comments we'd like to throw out there from commissioners? Just my thinking on this is, yeah, we want to clear an odd number in the committee, and I would rather broaden the public participation in it. So rather than rather than trying to keep it down to 9, I'd rather include maybe 2 more from Grand Portage community and or the Chippewa City descendants, and have maybe 2 seats on the potential committee there for that. So it'd bring it up to 11, but to Director Nelson's point about having an ex officio role, it's not entirely clear to me what would be more appropriate there. Having him as a voting member, or a staff person as a voting member, or just having them as that supportive role. So any thoughts there? And of course that changes numbers in both directions. So.
Well, and Mr. Chair, if I can just kind of explain, we have done over the course of the time that I have been here, there has been committees that have reflected either or. There's been ones where I've been actually a voting member of, and then there's also been times when I've been ex officio. And I don't know, think in terms of the Parks and Trails Director position or so, it may be better that I'm not seen as an advocate on one side or the other. And that would be my only concern in going as an ex officio, that as Parks and Trails Director, I want to be able to support and go with whatever the commissioners' decisions are without trying to swing it to one way or the other. I can certainly advise and provide my input, but it would just only be a determining of a voting status or not. So that's the only reason. But if the board wants to be comfortable with me being a voting member, that would be fine as well.
All right, and then yeah, Commissioner Sullivan, please.
I do appreciate your consideration of adding a couple members, so that we do have specifically that Grand Portage and descendant of Chippewa City representation. And given that with 11, we could still have people representing the rest of the neighborhood, if you will, or the county, and along with a historical society representative and representatives of the city and the county. I think it's very important that we know that we have that short-term piece of trying to provide some maintenance and immediate services to the people that do live there now, and making sure that we have a trash receptacle, and that we're making sure that we are following hours that we expect to be followed there in the current use. But I also think that having those 11 people for longer term task force work is significant and important and does broaden the perspective of the group substantially.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking at this point, and please comment and let me know what you all are thinking. But I would like to take county staff off of this committee and then add 2 members, one specifically from Grand Portage and another from either Grand Portage or Chippewa City descendants, and then what I was thinking is to open up another seat for the city, and that would take the county staff position, that second city representation, and what I'd like to hear feedback on is, if we want to have city staff or if we want to keep staff out of this and have it be elected officials, in these discussions. And staff, of course, are always advising elected officials, but just what you all think of that. And Director Nelson's been holding his hand up. Is your hand okay?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just one real quick thing. The distinction between the city staff and the county staff is the fact that the cities has a parks department. They have staff for maintenance and things like that. And I think, in terms of especially looking at short term, but in longer term, we would probably try to formulate some sort of agreement with the city to have their assistance from their parks department, because our parks and trails portion of the land services department really has no staff. I mean, I'm basically it. And so I'm perfectly fine with getting their input and their involvement in on that committee, because they would play, I would think, a big role if we did indeed ultimately decide to get this property.
All right. Commissioner Sullivan, you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, I was just looking at the configuration. So if we had 2 individuals, one representing Grand Portage and one Chippewa City, if we had Director Nelson as an ex officio, we had a representative from Parks and Trails, one elected representative from the city, one from the county, the Cook County Historical Society for that Chippewa City connection, and then maybe 3 members of the public, we would be at an odd number. And I think that would give a pretty broad representation. Any feedback from the rest of you on that thought?
Well, the numbers work fine there, but I guess where I was leaning, and I don't feel that strongly about it, was that I was hoping to have a broader public involvement on the committee. So rather than reducing it down to the 3, I was looking just to add more there. But I know meetings can get harder to schedule when we add more participation. So I'm open to either way there. But yes, then we don't. Oh, Nick, you have your mute off.
What are you just hopping onto a county board meeting? They're waiting to do just an introduction to me.
Hey, Nick, okay, there we go. Somebody, was that April? Thank you. Whoever, or whomever, right? Is that proper? So yeah, other commissioners, some input there would be appreciated. Just as far as numbers, Commissioner Hawkins, thank you.
I agree with you, Commissioner Mills, that I think 5 members of the public, we go to an 11-member committee. I just think it's important to make sure we have good representation from the public.
Thank you, Commissioner Swanson.
And yes, I'm in agreement with the 5.
And so let's be redundant and crystal clear here. Going down the list, we have 1 county commissioner, 1 Parks and Trails commission member, 1 City of Grand Marais representative, 1 Historical Society representative, 1 member from Grand Portage, and what my intention was another a member from either Grand Portage or a Chippewa City descendant, just so we don't pigeonhole a position necessarily, but have good representation there, and then take the county staff as ex officio, and then we would have 5 members from the public. Does that make our math right there? And Commissioner Storley, are you available to comment there? Do you have any thoughts on that, the makeup there? Are those numbers?
Thank you. I was just adding it up. So looks like 11. Yes. Yes, I think that's a good idea to have a little bit more from the public. It's part of their land, whether they're, Grand Marais, Hoveland, whatever. I think it will be to have representation from 3 to 5.
Administrator Yorkie.
Yes, Chairman Mills, you brought up the question of whether the City of Grand Marais representative would be staff or elected, and I just wanted clarification on your intent there.
I intentionally was vague, and I thought, to Director Nelson's point, that city staff may have a more direct input there, but I was thinking we could leave it up to the city to decide whether they wanted to have a staff member or an elected official there. But other commissioners, please give your thoughts on that. But not all at once. Okay, Commissioner Sullivan.
Just so that it's equitable between the city and the county, if Director Nelson is heading up the process, but he's ex officio, we would have either an elected official from the city and the county, or it could be staff from the city or the county. I think it should be the same. My preference would be elected.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have thoughts there? Commissioner Svalson.
I guess I'm more aligned with allowing the city to make that determination of who they think would best represent and have the depth of understanding to make that decision. That's where I stand on that. I think we ought to leave it up to them and not dictate to them who they should be having on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Svalson. Just a heads up, having a little bit of hard time hearing you. It did come in loud and strong at some points, but then kind of backed off a little bit. But we could hear, at least I could hear the whole of your thought. So thank you. And yeah, kind of how I'm being sensitive, or why I'm being sensitive to the city position is, as being a previous elected official there, the roles and responsibilities are quite different from the county positions, and staff are kind of more of the backbone regularity there. So they would have that expertise more so. But I do want to leave it open to whomever they find would be best there. And if they decided to have the elected representative, then I would certainly welcome a city's ex officio status as well. But I don't think we need to define that per se.
And I appreciate that explanation, having been part of the city. So thank you for that.
You betcha. All right, well, it seems like we've got a consensus there, but we do need to formalize it if we do think that this is, you know, it is appropriate to form this committee and to take this longer look at it. Do we have a motion for that? Commissioner Hawkins.
I have one more question. Did
Please.
we agree? Did we agree to extend the time frame
For the application?
Right.
That's a very good question. I don't think we discussed that much. I agree with that. We certainly want to have a month for applicants to be gathered. How do other commissioners feel about that?
I would agree. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay. Yep. Administrator Yorkie, you're on mute.
So for clarification, then, would you want to have a list of folks recommended for the committee to be approved at the March 23rd business meeting? Or would you want to push that off to the first April business meeting?
It's a very good question. How I see it is probably April. Again, to try to get that as good a pool as we can to go through, and then allow a recommendation to come for the board. I guess one of the other things us commissioners have not yet discussed is exactly that selection process and the application. We can talk about that separately from the formation of the committee. So we could do that after if we are currently in agreement for the formation of said committee. Maybe we should stay on that and then move on to the selection and application. So on that note, if there are other questions, please bring them forward. Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to approve the formation of this committee as discussed.
Yes, I have a question.
Please, Commissioner Storley.
Again, how is this going to be out to the public? How are they going to know?
Yes. Well, we can talk a little bit about that now, if you'd prefer. And some of the things we talked about is sending out
Right.
intention property or road. Otherwise, we have our public information coordinator that would be able to push things out. Otherwise, we have county releases or the newspaper for the general public at large. I think we should also reach out directly to Grand Portage and ask for their input or their involvement. And Administrator Yorkie, you had your hand up. Were there some other options?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to mention when you started speaking, you broke up there momentarily. So I missed the first part of what you said.
Well, I can't remember that far back.
I understand.
Well, I think what I said is I would hope that we would reach out directly to property owners along Old Shore Road. That's maybe
Right.
the first thing I said.
Yeah.
Okay. But what I was thinking, Commissioner Storley, is that we can talk more about the application and that selection after we decide we do want to form this committee. And Commissioner Sullivan, I did see a hand up a little bit ago. Did you have a question or a?
Mr. Chair, I was just going to reiterate what you were saying, that there are multiple ways we can inform the public, and obviously a press release, something in the Cook County News Herald, getting out on Boreal, WTIP, all of those venues should allow us to get the word out. Thank you.
All right. Well, I am looking for a motion to approve the formation of this committee as discussed.
Wallace makes that motion to approve the the committee to evaluate the going forward actions on the Passion Pit, and with the 11-member makeup that we had discussed and agreed on.
Thank you, Commissioner Swanson. Commissioner Sullivan.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Further discussion, Director Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Did we want to include that timeline associated with it, not to exceed 9 months from the date of the first meeting, or did you want to leave that open?
Thank you, Director Nelson. Yes, I do want to include the timeline of not to exceed 9 months from the formation of the first meeting of the committee.
And Commissioner Sullivan, as the support of that motion, are you in support of that amendment?
I would like to leave it a little open till the group gets into it. But I do want to make certain that we have the support of the Minnesota Department of Transportation. So Tim, maybe we can, follow up on that and say about 9 months. I just want to make sure, because I think this is a really important decision, that it's done very thoroughly and respectfully, and that we allow time to do our best.
So it sounds, forgive me, Commissioner Sullivan, it sounds like you do not support the amendment that Commissioner Swanson has made to define as 9 months after the first meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So we currently have an open motion that would include the formation of this committee to explore the longer term options of this property with the timeline of 9 months after the first meeting. Is there support? Just so I don't lose out on audio here. I'll ask again. There is a motion on the table for the formation of the committee as discussed, with the amendment to define it for a timeline of 9 months after the first meeting. Is there support? I neither see nor hear support, so the motion fails to gain support. Director Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Might I recommend that we just go ahead and set a timeline of 12 months then, and I can then check with the MnDOT to see if that would be agreeable to them. And certainly that would allow the committee still to be finished up within the 9 months. It's just a no later than.
All right. Thank you, Director Nelson. Is there now a motion for the formation of the committee as discussed with the time frame of 12 months, no later than 12 months?
I so move that, Chairman Mills.
Thank you, Commissioner Swanson. Is there support?
Sullivan supports.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Is there any further discussion? Hearing or seeing none, I'll take it to a roll call vote. Commissioner Swanson.
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins.
Aye.
Commissioner Storley.
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is aye as well. We have unanimous approval of the formation of a committee to explore the use of the Passion Pit area with no longer than 12 months from the first meeting date. So now to get into a little bit more of the details here, we can talk about the application and selection of said committee. There is an application in our board packet. Do we want to start there and kind of go over that? Has everyone had a chance to, or I'll give everyone a moment to pull it up there. And I'll read it off just for everyone's benefit, I guess. The title of the form is the Passion Pit Committee Application Form. There is a note that we've decided to change under the due date, and my intention was to have that for our first April meeting. So what would be an appropriate time for the application due date if we were to have it ready for our first April meeting? Director Nelson.
Just perhaps by the end of March, or the last Friday, I'm sorry, March 26th. That would give pretty much a full month from now, and that would give a couple weeks for any kind of ad hoc panel to run through and make their recommendations.
How does the board feel about March 26th as a due date for the applications? Commissioner Sullivan.
I would strongly support what Director Nelson came up with, the March 26th, that Friday date.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? Otherwise, we can maybe just move along the application. Pencil that in unless we have concerns as we move along here. Whoops, wrong screen. Okay, the first item on the application is the candidate name, then the physical address, the mailing address, city, state, zip, phone number, email. Moving along to the real substance, relevant experience and/or employment. The next item, and there's a number of lines there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please list prior experience serving on a task force, board, or nonprofit organization. There's another 5 lines there. Why are you interested in serving on the Passion Pit Task Force? Another 5 lines there, so 4 lines. They're starting to blur. Are you available to meet during the evening, on weekdays, weekends? Another 4 lines there. And please share any other information you feel important for consideration of this application. And another 4 lines there. Do any commissioners have any concerns about any of that? Are there any further questions we want to add? Any we want to take out? Any thoughts whatsoever? Director Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My only question is, and I don't think it's exceedingly important, but does there need to be a signature line to it where somebody actually signs their name or not? That's just a question.
It's a good idea, yes. And then a date. I like the questions just fine. I think it'll give us a good understanding of background, intentions, and experience. So I see it as a good application. Anyone else have concerns or comments? I neither see nor hear any. So we can move on to the Administrator Yorkie, please.
Yeah, are we requesting sufficient information to know which of the membership seats the applicants are wanting to fill?
Excellent point. I'd say no. So maybe we want to have that list on the page of our. Does that make sense? Is that?
You were freezing a little bit as you stated that, so you might want to repeat that again.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. I was wondering if we want to just add that list of the committee composition on there and ask applicants to check all that apply. All right. That'll give us some flexibility too if there are overlaps or whatever. Great, thank you, Administrator Yorkie, for pointing that out. That would have been embarrassing, huh? Well, I guess then we can move on to the selection process. You know, this is maybe where it gets tricky. how do we decide who to form this, and is it the sort of thing we want multiple commissioners involved with, or do we want to rely on staff? I think typically we rely on staff, and then the commissioners approve it. But I'm open to having commissioners involved in that process. I just feel that it's appropriate to leave it in the hands of staff. Director Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And typically you're right. Like for the planning commission or whatever, we would go through them and submit the recommendation to the commissioners for selection onto the committee. However, in the importance of a broader perspective on this, I certainly wouldn't want all of that just heaped up into a single focus. And so I would recommend that we would have myself, one or two county commissioners, and a Parks and Trails Commission member. And then if there's anyone else that the commissioners would like to see, and I don't know, maybe we could even get some assistance from the HR director, since she's now on the screen with us.
Whoops. Oh, okay. Oh, good. Yeah, I thank you for the suggestion, and yeah, I would hope for your participation, Director Nelson, and Pamela Dixon. I think would be an excellent addition for the selection process. Administrator Yorkie, I'd hope you'd be involved there. Your perspective has clearly shown some great points so far as well. Is that all we need, or do we want to have a Parks and Trails Commission member on there, or a county board commissioner on there? Well, I'm satisfied with Director Nelson, Director Dixon, and Administrator Yorkie, myself. Okay. Well, it appears that we have consensus on the application, and it appears we have consensus on the selection. If anyone has any concerns, please bring them up. We should address them now. Otherwise, I would ask for a motion to approve both the application and the, well, I guess we did not define the process itself for selection. Do we feel we need to do that, or can we just leave that in the hands of staff? And Commissioner Sullivan, I saw your hand.
I feel comfortable leaving that with the three individuals that we've noted.
Very good. Thank you. In that case, is there a motion to approve the application as well as the selection committee? Commissioner Sullivan?
I move to bring forward the task force application form as amended, and to move forward also with the three-person committee to review the applicants.
Swallowson supports.
Thank you. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion at this point? One thing I would like to emphasize that I guess we didn't talk much about directly is community input, community involvement. We did talk about it with the actual committee, but what I'm really hoping this committee will get that broader outreach to really gather input from the community at large to really look at this from all perspectives. So maybe that discussion is already passed, but I just wanted to point that out explicitly now. We do have a motion and a second. If there is no further discussion, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Svalson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Storley?
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is aye as well for unanimous approval of both the application as well as the selection committee. Thank you all very much. Director Nelson, it looks like that's it for today, at least in this meeting. Is that correct? Uh-oh, he's froze. We got it. We got it all in there. I'll move on to item 9 of our agenda. Human resources. We have Director Dixon with us for 9A remote work policy. Good morning, Pamela.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners, Administrator Yorkie, colleagues, and community members who may be listening. Thank you for your time this morning. As we've heard a little bit this morning, we are certainly living in unprecedented times. And from a strategic workforce and organizational development perspective, we have an opportunity, and it is my intention, to put in place policies and work processes that ensure we continue to build and maintain a productive, highly skilled, and engaged workforce. With that said, this remote work policy, along with supporting performance management and reporting processes, is intended to build in flexibility into how we work in order to support recruiting, retention, and employee engagement efforts. The other unique opportunity this policy provides is to reimagine our current workspace, which is limited. Also, empirical research, beginning back in the mid-90s on workforce performance and productivity, including my own research, has shown that productivity increases when management best practices are followed, primarily and beginning with a paradigm shift of sorts from butts in seats mentality or time in the office to a results-oriented work expectations. Also, trust by supervisor, along with strong communication and feedback loops regarding expectations and work performance standards. Also, autonomy of employee over their own schedule. And as Rena described in her earlier presentation, the technology infrastructure that enables efficient and effective work processes. This policy was originally put in place last year as a temporary work arrangement based on the governor's executive order to work from home whenever possible due to the pandemic. Care has been taken in crafting the revised policy before you today to ensure a focus on being clear on eligibility, employee safety, county information security, and work efficiencies via technology. So I'm here this morning seeking the board's approval for this remote work policy and would be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Director Dixon. Do we have some questions from the board regarding the remote work policy? Commissioner Svalson.
Keep muting and unmuting myself. I apologize. My one question, not being aware of the previous version, you quickly went over the things you focused on with this revised version. Is there anything in specific, detail or anything that you want us to know that you've changed?
We had input from Rena Rogers regarding technology support. And, but fundamentally, we have already had a safety checklist in place and working with department heads around information security, performance expectations, communication channels. So much is the same. We're just making it more permanent rather than a temporary option.
Very good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Commissioner Svalson. Do we have any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Sullivan?
I'd just like to make a comment. I want to thank you so much for the analogy for seat time. We know in schools and education, we got rid of seat time a long time ago and moved to performance standards. And I just applaud you for doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan.
Commissioner Starley, did I hear your voice as well?
My voice is here, yes. Ms. Dixon, so this is the remote work policy. When it ever happens that we can be all together again, does this change?
No, it does not.
Okay, thank you.
That's a very good question. Yeah, it part of what this policy, in my understanding, how I'm reading it, is anticipating the changes, enabling us to have employees back in the office, but also recognizing potential efficiencies of having remote workers, whether that be productivity or just facilities efficiencies, not needing as much office space or having temporary workspace in the office and some flexibility there. And as we go through our facilities needs and planning, I think this could be a really good tool in attempting to address those challenges. Commissioner Swalson.
The other key piece that I see in this to note is that it helps you to manage inclement weather issues and that type of thing, which I had used in my previous career, and drastically improved our productivity. When you knew that you had bad weather coming, people were able to just transition to working from home, and we didn't miss any time or production goals. So it's just something I think will benefit the county from that perspective, and it's not a small one when it comes to managing the resources.
Thank you. I had a little issue there with hearing all of your comment there, but what I took away from that was that you're saying it addresses the inclement weather, and then there's increase in productivity, and you can plan for that, and it really helps with all of that. Yep. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other? Yes, Commissioner Hawkins.
Yeah, I was wondering, Ms. Dixon, if you can clarify where it says that the employee must be employed with Cook County for a minimum of 12 months of continuous regular employment and must have a satisfactory performance record. And I'm wondering about our new hires that are currently working remotely, and how is this going to play into that?
Thank you for your question, Commissioner Hawkins. You'll note under the subheader eligibility, it says the following eligibility requirements may not apply to remote working arrangements approved based on emergency circumstances such as infectious disease outbreak and natural disasters. So currently we still are in a pandemic and under governor's orders to work from home when we can work from home. So because of that, we do have newer employees doing just that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. So when the governor lifts the emergency powers then, and those employees are less than 12 months of employment, they will be required to have office space in the building?
That's the way the policy is written, yes.
I just wanted to be clear about that. Thank you.
Yep, and the rationale for that is after 12 months of employment, you have had an opportunity to go through the 6 months, which is typical for probation, but also an opportunity to show your stuff, to be productive, to show how you're performing in your work and earning those satisfactory performance reviews. So it gives us a good indicator that this individual is able to effectively work remotely.
Excellent questions. Commissioner Storley, I can't see you, but I trust that you'll speak up if you have further questions or comments.
Well,
oh, okay. All right. Well, any other questions or comments? I'm really grateful for the thought and the work that's been put into this, and I think it is a sign of healthy development in our organization. And I'm just really grateful for your work, Director Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that, I'll look for a motion to approve the remote work policy.
I'll make that motion.
We have Commissioner Hawkins with the motion. Commissioner Storley, were you giving support?
yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. Any further discussion? Hearing or seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Storley?
Aye.
Commissioner Svalson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is aye as well. We have unanimous approval there. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Director Dixon.
Thank you.
And have a good rest of your day. All right, we're moving on to item 10 in the agenda. That's the auditor. We have Auditor Powers with us, I believe. I saw him. Yes, there he is. Item 10A, B, and C are all in regards to the revolving loan fund committee, and I'll hand it over to you, Auditor Powers.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So revolving loan fund committee has 2 vacancies at the moment. Hal Greenwood, as you know, died late last year, and now Bruce Kerfoot has resigned as he's moved out of state. So we have 2 current vacancies, and we're looking at the possibility of 1 or 2 more vacancies during the year. And we put out this request for new committee members. We got back 3 really strong applications, as you probably have noticed there. And the committee would like to have all 3 approved, as we think we're going to have another vacancy, at least 1 this year. So we would request that all 3 of these be approved. They all have strong business backgrounds, for sure, education backgrounds, and serving on committees and boards within the county. So I would ask approval of all 3 of those.
Thank you, Auditor Powers. Do we have any questions or comments right off the bat here for Auditor Powers in regards to these 3 nominations or recommendations? Commissioner Svalson?
So Brady, were they intending to seat all 3 or just to select 2 for the time being and then hold 1?
Yeah, there's no limit. This committee is not defined with a limit. So we've had as many as 9 or 10 at times, and as few as 7.
Very good.
So,
thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Only comment I would make is I feel we're very lucky to have these 3 individuals in particular apply for this committee, and I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, and I mean we've lost some strong members in recent years too, and I think this makes me feel like it's going to be a strong committee going forward still. It wasn't a sure thing until we saw these applications come in, but we feel really good about it too. And I should mention, Bruce Kerfoot, he's been on the committee since 2014. He owned the Gunflint Lodge, a strong representative of that business community, restaurants and lodging, which is a lot of our applications too. So, and we're replacing some of that same strength of knowledge and background with these 3.
Very good. Well, I guess I'll be asking for a motion to approve all 3. Commissioner Svalson.
I motion that we approve all 3 applicants for the.
Thank you, Commissioner Svalson. Do we have support? Commissioner Hawkins?
Yes.
We have support from Commissioner Hawkins. Thank you. We'll do any further discussion, questions? Otherwise, I'll do roll call vote. Commissioner Svalson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Storley?
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is an aye as well. We have unanimous approval of the 3 recommendations on our agenda. Thank you very much. And Auditor Powers, we're on now to 10D, and that's an applicant for the Grand Marais Library Board.
Yeah, I'll just give some background. So we have a joint powers agreement with the city for this library. And the city actually makes all 7 appointments to the library board, but the county in the joint powers, we nominate the 3 who are non-city residents. So this would be one of those 3. So I think you have 1 vacancy and 1 person applied. And if this is a good applicant in your view, then you'd push that nomination on to notify the city of our recommendation.
Thank you, Auditor Powers. Do we have any questions about the library board applicant? Otherwise, I'd look for a motion to approve the nomination of Sarah McManus to the library board.
So moved, Storley.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. Do we have support? Commissioner Sullivan?
Sullivan supports.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Any further discussion or questions? Otherwise, I'll move on to a roll call vote. Commissioner Storley?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Svalson?
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is aye as well. Unanimous approval for the application of Sarah McManus to the library board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, Brady.
You too.
And now we're moving on to item 11 in the agenda with our administrator, Administrator Yorkie.
Yes, good morning, all. So a few things on the agenda this morning, and I wanted to ask Nick Cusick to unmute his mic and turn on his camera if he could. Just wanted to introduce you to our new Public Information Coordinator, Nick Cusick. Nick comes to us most recently from the St. Paul Convention and Visitors Bureau, where he's worked for a number of years. And he is stepping into the role of the Public Information Coordinator, which, as a reminder, is a shared position between the county and North Shore Health. And yesterday was Nick's first day in the office. He worked remotely a couple days last week. But it was interesting to me, the item that we discussed earlier with Assessor Thompson, that came in yesterday, and we realized, hey, there's a need to notify the public about this mailer that's going out that looks like it's official, but it's not really. And so we immediately tasked Nick with working on that press release. And that's not something that happens every day, but it was a good introduction, I think, for Nick to kind of see some of the things that we deal with and some of the kinds of communications that we have to get out. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Nick to say a few words about his arrival here in Cook County and any other information that he'd like to share with the board.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Administrator Yorkie, and hello all. I'm at North Shore Health today, so forgive me for mask covering half my face, but very excited to join and just say hello, and very appreciative of the opportunity to come and join our amazing community here and contribute both to the county work, but also North Shore Health. And where my wife and I are just very thrilled to be making the move, and that's a work in process, but very happy to be making that move. And yeah, yesterday was a great first day, getting to experience some of the things that are happening at the courthouse, and today is a great day as well as I get started here at North Shore Health. So continue to kind of get acclimated, and that'll be a little bit of a process, but I'm very excited about this learning opportunity, and I know I'm going to learn a lot from all of you. And so I thank you in advance for that, and I'm very excited about it.
Thank you, Nick. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Nick is not a stranger to Cook County. He does have some family connections here, and he's been coming here for many years. So this is something that I think he's really looked forward to, because knowing the area as he does, he recognizes all the amazing things that Cook County has to offer.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Welcome to the team.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks a lot, Nick. So moving on, the next thing that I just wanted to talk about is the COW that's coming up, the Committee of the Whole meeting that's coming up next month. After the last building committee meeting, I had a conversation with Commissioner Mills, and he expressed a desire to know more about kind of where we're going in terms of investment in our buildings. And for those of you who've been paying attention over the last number of years, you know that there's been a lot of work done to kind of assess our building needs. There were some plans to construct some new facilities that did not move forward. But we do have a lot of information that was developed by a consultant assessing the condition of our buildings and some of the needs that those buildings have. It's interesting that Pamela Dixon just talked about a remote work policy, because that certainly plays into the way I'm thinking about our facilities. I think we're going to see moving forward that we're going to have fewer people in our buildings working. There's not going to be as great of a need for that. And that's great from a capital investment standpoint, because it means you don't have to think about building new office buildings. But there are clearly some needs that we do have. And so what I'm doing now is basically just pulling together all the information that was developed over the last 3 to 5 years and trying to aggregate that in a way that can help us bring the big picture into focus and start looking at where we need to be thinking about making investments in our buildings in the future. And one reason for this, as Rena was talking about earlier, if you do good planning and if you have good replacement schedules in place, things become a lot more predictable. And I feel like we're in a place right now where things are much less predictable with our buildings and our building systems than I would like them to be. And so I feel like our maintenance staff, which by the way, does a really great job, Brian Silence and his staff, they, when things go wrong, they're on it, and they're not afraid to come in on a Sunday and work on the boiler here in the courthouse as they did just a couple of weeks ago. So no discredit to them at all. They do a great job. But I think they're in a mode where they've been kind of reacting to fires as they come up. And I think there is a need for some proactive planning around our facilities to make sure that they're doing less of that kind of work and more of the proactive kind of ongoing maintenance, replacing things before they break down so that things do become more predictable. And so in preparation for the Committee of the Whole meeting next month, I'm starting to aggregate that information and bring it into focus. I've set meetings with Auditor Powers and also Brian Silence to start looking at what we've done in recent years and what our current maintenance and replacement needs are. And then also sketching out a plan for moving forward, what kinds of investments we'll need to make. And again, I see this less focused on big capital projects and more just kind of taking care of what we have. But I won't suggest to you that there may not be a need for some new projects. And one area where I think we're going to need to have some conversations is the recycling center, which has a number of needs right now. We're looking at doing an insulation project there that is going to run probably around $110,000 to $115,000. We've also got a heater there that needs to be replaced. And that building is old and it doesn't necessarily serve the purpose that it's being used for right now in the best way. And so I think there's a conversation to be had about what the long-term plan for that facility is. And again, I don't have any preconceptions about what the answer to that question is, but I think it needs to be asked, and I think we need to have a conversation about it. So that's one of the big items that I'm thinking about. I'll just add, I mentioned to my wife yesterday, sometimes this job feels like being in the middle of a big vortex in which dozens, if not hundreds of objects are spinning around, and some of them are really big and some of them are smaller. But the goal is not to get knocked in the head, especially by the big objects. And so that's why I'm thinking about our buildings. I also talked about our strategic plan, which we've convened a leadership team to begin working on that process. And where we are right now is in the last iteration of this planning. The departments developed their own SWOT analyses and involved staff in doing that. And I guess I should explain a SWOT analysis for those who don't know is an analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the team did some really great foundational work about 3 years ago to examine that at the department level. And what we're going to be doing is going back to those documents and analyzing what is still current, what probably needs to drop off, and then also what's missing from it. And certainly 3 years ago, no one could have imagined that in 2020 and 2021, we would be in the throes of a pandemic and meeting and working mostly remotely. And so that's, I think that's a new context for those conversations. And so we're going to be organizing departmental meetings to revisit those SWOT analyses and get staff input on updating those. And then moving forward, that'll form the foundation for the next part of the work, which is really looking at what are our needs and what do our strategic initiatives need to be. And again, the last time that we did this work, we identified some pillars of organizational performance that I think are still relevant and a really good framework for things moving forward. And then also figuring out what is our vision. We already have a mission statement, and we worked on developing a vision for the organization last time, and there were a number of ideas, but I don't think we ever really drew a conclusion to that work. And so that's going to be part of it. And my preliminary thoughts on that are, how do we make local government, how do we make county government boring and predictable? And well, boring is not really an inspiring vision statement. It is a really good state to be in terms of daily operations, because if things are boring, that means you're managing things effectively and you're not running into a lot of surprises. And I really, from this position, that's something that I think sounds really desirable. And I see smiles on your faces, so I think that's resonating. We want to do good planning so that as we move forward as an organization, we mitigate the impacts of those surprises. And you can't ever completely eliminate them, but getting good operational plans in place, good strategic goals so that you can minimize that kind of thing is really where we want to go. So that's another big thing. And then a third kind of key issue is budget planning for 2022. In talking with Auditor Powers recently, I think that process at the department level typically started in June of each year. And I really think there's value in starting that conversation earlier so that we can start looking at, what kind of constraints we're facing, what kinds of opportunities there are in terms of, grants and other kind of external support for the work that we're doing, and just really getting an early start on that conversation so that we can bring forward a really solid budget proposal to you in September. So those are kind of some of the big items that I'm working on. There are always, of course, smaller things that are popping up, but those are some of the key ones. And so I guess I would pause there and ask if you all have any questions.
Commissioner Salson.
Not a question, but I would just tell you I'm very excited by all three areas that you brought forward. I do believe, as we stated earlier with Rena Rogers, they're the key pieces to put in place. And my only offering to you, rather than boring, you may put the word predictable just as an option.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments there? Commissioner Hawkins.
Yeah, and I agree yeah, I really like what you're going to work on for our cow meeting. I'm wondering, and I thought of this earlier in the meeting, and I meant to ask Brady, but about our Ty Blatnick funding. I know that Commissioner Bersheim was working with the group. Do we know what's happening with that?
We do, yeah. So currently, and I see Molly just popped up, and she may want to add to what I'm going to say, but we are waiting for the feds to do a reassessment of the payments that we receive, and you know, we've made a case that the best use of the lands that are currently part of that payment to us haven't adequately been classified according to their highest use. And so the reappraisal that's taking place this year, and that we should know the result of later this year, will clarify what those payments will be moving forward.
Thank you, Administrator Yorkie. And just to clarify, we know that we're there, but we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And I think that maybe more addresses your question, Commissioner Hawkins. Is that right? Yeah. So we know that we're waiting for the feds to reassess, and then we don't know what that reassessment will be. So, but yeah, it's a big wild card, but I think we have a very strong case, and of course now there's a new administration, and that shakes things up a little bit too. But we'll see where that goes.
So do we have a time frame that are we saying hopefully in 3 months or 6 months, or do we know?
I think it was 2 years, but some time has passed since. It's, I guess, and then you factor in COVID, you know, so. But and maybe Administrator Yorkie, you have better information.
Well, I understood that we were going to have some indication by the end of the end of this year, what that reappraisal would be, but perhaps that's not correct.
Well, that would be the second year. Yeah, it was just, I didn't know if COVID threw everything out the window there or not, but yes.
And I don't know, Molly and Bob may have additional information on that.
Assessor Thompson, do you or Attorney Hicken, either one?
So what I understood was that we would be meeting with the appraiser. They have selected an appraiser. We will be meeting with them in March, and that by the end of the year, we would have word back. So I haven't heard anything since then. And Molly, you may have more input on this, but we're kind of in just a waiting period, I guess, until we get to meet with the assessor or the appraisers that are going to be doing it this time around. We've prepared some data from my office that, you know, as best we can provide examples of, you know, prospective mineral sales that are more happening in Lake and St. Louis County, but, you know, throughout the entire Duluth complex, it's similar type mineral values. Just some of those things that we thought that probably could use a little more consideration than what was given on the original 2018 appraisal. I can certainly say that from an appraiser's perspective, I'm more optimistic that this new appraisal is going to come up with a value that's you know, more reflective of what we had back in 2008. I mean, you really have to try to devalue the boundary waters, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the impression I got too, is things were a little contrived to get that devaluation of the property there, and especially to that extent. Attorney Hicken, did you have something to add as well?
Jared, I don't have any additional information to what has already been provided, but available for questions.
Well, thank you, and thank you both, Attorney Hicken and Assessor Thompson, for your work on this, and Administrator Yorkie, because very critical for our planning and our budget. So, yep, we are all anxiously awaiting, as you are as well. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Is that is your update over, Administrator Yorkie?
It is, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the update. We'll move on to item 12 in the agenda, employee concerns / commissioner concerns. Item 12A is commissioner reports. Any reports from commissioners? Commissioner Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to reiterate that I've had some wonderful opportunities as a new commissioner, and I know that Commissioner Hawkins and Commissioner Swallison can agree that we've just had great training through AMC, a legislative update. We've had our first policy committees. I'm sitting on the AMC Natural Resources Policy Committee, and we got an update on soil and water and natural resources and the Minnesota Pollution Control Authority, which were all very valuable and will assist me in my work here in Cook County. And then on a local level, the EDA has really dug into the examination of an HRA. I have been very pleased to go to some training, and I know I saw Commissioner Hawkins there as well for the Minnesota Transportation Alliance. And we learned about highway and bridge fund distribution and had an opportunity to listen to state legislators who sit on the Transportation Committee and discuss both statewide and regional concerns regarding our infrastructure. So that has been very helpful to me, and I know to others, and will help us to make good decisions in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Any other reports from anyone? Just kind of going off of what Commissioner Sullivan was saying regarding the AMC legislative session, and well, of course, there's the 101 training, which is very good too. But that legislative session, I think, is probably my favorite, because it really gives us the opportunity to kind of dig into some of the state issues that really affect our counties, and to get those other perspectives. And I sit on the public safety committee, and it was a very good discussion about bail reform, and as well as the impacts of COVID on the jail system, and just how that's really changing how things are looked at. And boy, is that really relevant to our county as far as what our facility needs may or may not be. It really changes that outlook. There could be other changes, mandates that come along as well, that could change that whole discussion too. But I found it very helpful, and would benefit Cook County. It just not holding people for cash bail, because the argument there is that the intention of having the bail system in place is to improve public safety, but there really is no correlation between dollars and public safety. Somebody posting bail, being able to afford or having the resources to post bail or not, does not determine if there's that safety aspect. So they're looking at models that were used in New York, which had some, I don't know if backfire is the right word, but had really bad press because of some incidents where tragedy struck after releasing somebody without bail. But New Jersey, I guess, has had a much more successful approach. And so looking at that, and it's something I hope Attorney Hicken will be involved with, or just privy to that discussion. See a lot of benefits there. Anybody else? Nope. Well, thank you for attending those AMC trainings and participating in the legislative session, because I feel like that gets us far as a team, and as a community as well, and just us individually as commissioners. So item 12B is meeting updates. Any updates we should be aware of? Anybody? Otherwise, we can move on to item 12C, meetings to note. We have another Government 101 virtual training, March 17th. And I gotta say, I was skeptical of spreading these out, but I could see some real benefit now too, because it allows us to absorb the information, because there is a lot there, and it's almost like an ongoing training, and having those reminders, I think it's really a good format. So I'm a big fan of this format now too. Correspondence, we have the year-end sales tax report, which is for information. Very interesting for us to keep a finger on the pulse here of our economy, our local economy. And item 14, we covered in previous board meeting, and otherwise we can move on to the item we've all been waiting for, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. Is there support?
Storley support.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Storley?
Aye.
Commissioner Swalson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Mills is aye as well. We have unanimous approval to adjourn. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful
Thank you.
day.
Have a great